Get a shot up. This is for the win.
All of Detroit's sports teams live on Woodward.
All of Detroit's sports coverage lives on Woodward Sports.
Driving the best in Detroit sports coverage.
Jesus Christ. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Morning Woodward Show here on the Woodward Sports Network Live. Oh, man, we are at Feldman Chevrolet in Novi.
Everybody in Novi just woke
Grand
up.
River. Everybody in Novi just woke up. I love it. I love it. I hope you all enjoyed your weekend. What a weekend it was. I mean, come on, guys. It's the NFL Draft. Even day 2 into day 3, you just got to love it. It's one of the best times of the year, of course, outside of the actual football season.
Yeah.
This is where you start to hope and dream and think of everything that could go right for your football team. And boy, we got a jam-packed show, which will do exactly just that. And look, Tim Twentyman sat down with Jahmyr Gibbs. The Lions wrapped up their third day in the NFL draft, who they were going to take. We got to talk about Steph Curry, 50 in Game 7, all-time Game 7 record for most points scored. Unbelievable. We also have to have a conversation about whether or not myself, Lions fans in general, were too quick to judge or too quick to get upset with how the first round turned out, given in round 2, you saw Brad Holmes do what I think we all know Brad Holmes is capable of doing, or at least you project that way, right? We'll analyze the draft board. Jeff will give us his feedback, his thoughts on what he thinks of not only the draft strategy, but the common theme here, especially according to Next Gen Stats, that the Lions continually follow ever since Brad Holmes showed up in the building. But let's wrap up day 1, 2, and 3. The draft is over, Jeff. Walk me through the board, the players you love, you don't love. Who'd they take?
Well, we'll just start from the very beginning, and we've covered this. If you guys haven't already, you can go back and check last week, our shows then. We did it on Saturday. Me and Adam broke down day 2 of the NFL draft. But just to go through, obviously Jahmyr Gibbs, this could go a lot of different ways depending on who you ask. Now, if you don't value running backs in the first round, you're not going to be a huge fan of the pick. But we've discussed this. Me and Adam have went back and forth, and I guess the thing to take away from it is not to put Jahmyr in strictly a box. He's a weapon. He's an offensive weapon. Brad alluded to that in the press conference. So Jahmyr Gibbs, if this tells us anything, signing David Montgomery, drafting Jahmyr Gibbs in the first round, it's clear the Lions want to run the football, especially with Jared Goff. That's the big reason why I advocated for Bijan Robinson. We know how good Jared is in play action. So get him a solid run game. Now, go to the the second first-round pick, Jack Campbell. I mean, and we discussed this as well. Even if you don't like the pick, just think about it like this. He was clearly the best player on the Lions draft board. And on top of that, you needed a linebacker. We all agree there. So why not take the best linebacker, the only linebacker with a first-round grade? And if you look at, the 40 time, the 4.65, I think that gets lost a little bit because he had the highest athleticism score among all linebackers. So if you're going off that, the 3-cone drill, he's more quick than fast, I guess is the right word. So Jack Campbell, both guys in the first round, going to be able to contribute right away. And I talked about that already. So despite what you say, both those guys are going to make an impact immediately, now with the departure of Swift. Sam Laporta. All right, Sam Laporta, I don't mind. We have to wait and see because, again, he's the second tight end drafted. And you pick him at 34, right after Sam Laporta, a run on tight ends immediately right after. So for Brad, you had the option to select who you liked. Michael Mayer was there. You went with Sam Laporta. This guy, out of all the tight ends, he broke the most tackles. You can't get to him. So a guy, an explosive weapon, someone that Jared Goff is going to be immediately able to use. So those are 3 guys that are going to be able to make an impact right away. Brian Branch, ladies and gentlemen. Brian Branch. My favorite pick of the entire draft. And if you talk about value, and Adam, you would agree, value, a player that we had mocked at 18, a first-round grade, the best safety in this class, you got him not only in the 3rd round, but you got him your 4th player taken.
What, do you run a 10th of a 40 slower than Kyle Hamilton? And Hamilton went 14 last year, 13, 14?
And by the way, I say safety, but he's not even a safety. You just put DB on him. He played everywhere. I mean, he was deep safety. He played in the nickel. He played corner. I mean, the guy is basically a Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, especially if Chauncey Gardner-Johnson leaves and you can't re-sign him. Here comes Brian Branch, able to fill pretty much the exact same role. Swiss Army knife DBs. I mean,
Brian
Branch.
Of the Philadelphia Eagles model, no?
Yeah, it's pretty much. That's what they're trying to build with AG. Likes to use a lot of DBs. And Brian Branch, I mean, for him to even be there and they trade up and grab him, it's immaculate. We talked about them
You're
needing
happy
a DB.
this morning, aren't you?
I love it. Brian Branch to me was my favorite pick, and I think many would agree. Best value in the draft.
All right. Well, here's where I think best value comes in. Hendon Hooker in the 3rd round. Out of all the picks, I mean, let's just be honest here. If Hendon Hooker ends up becoming Jared Goff, let's say he's as good as Jared Goff. You just drafted someone who was taken number 1 overall in the 3rd round, who you can likely, if you're not happy, or maybe you are happy with Jared Goff, you don't want to move off from him, you have Hendon Hooker waiting to be flipped for a 2nd, maybe even a 1st-round pick. Who knows?
Yeah.
We've seen these deals happen for years now. Hendon Hooker, I mean, in the 3rd round, no risk involved.
No.
You take him. He's going to sit in the beginning. He's going to learn. And God forbid, something does go wrong. This is an insurance policy.
Yep.
Jared Goff misses a few games, or he goes down long-term, and then his future is in question. Oh, okay. Well, we drafted this guy. Let's make a decision here. Do we bring back Goff for his final year? Do we move on? So many hypotheticals we can go through on the Hendon Hooker thing. I love it. I don't think it's as binary as Alex Smith in Kansas City, and they took Mahomes. Mahomes was a 1st-round pick. They traded up to 10th overall to draft him. Hooker's a 3rd-round pick. I think there's a huge difference here, guys. So I don't think this means Jared Goff's future is in question in Detroit. I just think Brad Holmes bought an insurance policy. I love it.
And we talked about this last week, too, the whole quarterback discussion. And your big argument was, I'm not taking the 3rd or 4th best quarterback at 6. What if I told you could take the 3rd or 4th best quarterback in the 3rd round? Like, it's very different in terms of the risk and reward. I mean, lower risk
when
now
I
with
say
Hendon
that, though, in reality, when I say that, you have to look at each draft individually.
Yeah.
You know, let's be honest. No hindsight here. You go back to the Mahomes, Deshaun Watson draft, okay? Your honest opinion, before they ever played it down in the NFL, coming out, it was Watson 1, Mahomes 2, Trubisky 3. Chicago traded up and drafted Trubisky, I believe, number 2 overall.
Yep.
Correct?
Yeah. Cool. Traded up to get him, too. It's crazy.
And then you're talking the 2nd and the 1st best quarterback coming out that were selected at 10 and 12. So it's different, you know, depending on the scenario you want to use. The Josh Allen draft. Josh Allen was the 3rd quarterback taken, I believe, and Lamar went later at the end of the 1st round. So you rank those quarterbacks as prospects. I mean, to be fair, some guys had Josh Allen up there with Darnold and Baker. So it all just depends on the year. There are years where you look at the number 1 and 2 guys, and I think this is one of those years where you're like, those are the best guys. And there's like
pretty clear cut.
It's pretty obvious. I don't think there's going to be a Josh Allen in this draft. So, you know, that's what I mean when I say you take the 3rd, 4th best guy. It's not because they're ranked that high, but it's what they are coming out. Are they a project? Are they not? Anthony Richardson, some saw him as the number 1 prospect. He went 4th overall. So, you know, it is what it is. It is what it is. I think the Lions had a hell of a draft, but I can't lie to you guys. I think last year they obviously were one of the 4 or 5 best teams in terms of who won the draft. I don't think they're up there this year. I don't. I think in their own eyes, and tell me if I'm wrong, I think in the opinion of everybody in Allen Park, they're really happy with the draft. They got the players they wanted, and good for them. I support that. I have no problem with that at all. But I don't think nationally everyone's going to look at this black and white and say, oh, yeah, Lions crushed it. I think people like the Branch pick. I think people like the Hooker pick. I think there's a lot of question around Jahmyr Gibbs, and that's what I want to get to before we even move on with anything. Draft night, I was shocked they took Jahmyr Gibbs. Friday morning, we did a show. I was still in shock. I've gotten to sleep on it 3 days now. And let me make the case for Jahmyr Gibbs making sense. And I'm going to thank you for talking me into this, but it's the only way I can make it make sense. I'm not saying he's going to be Deebo Samuel or Alvin Kamara. That's a hard thing to say. But if he is more of a receiving player than a guy who runs the football, you can convince me that there's value there. I'm essentially drafting a receiver here who's a hybrid. Now, is Deebo Samuel the future of the NFL? I don't know. There's only one like him. Is that what the Lions envision for Jahmyr Gibbs? Maybe. Cool. Is that a future option for running backs and receivers in the NFL? Maybe. But it has to be that level of talent, production, and capability to justify that pick. Because I think you would agree with me. He's not carrying the ball 16, 17, 18 times a game. So you have David Montgomery for. And even then, he won't carry the ball that often unless you're just winning by 2-3 possessions. Mm-hmm. So that to me, which you explained pretty well to me, is if he's a hybrid,
right,
and he's a 70, 75 catch guy, which would be insane year one, but if he is that, I think you drafted a receiver at 12, and typically receivers go in the top 10,
right,
given their talent. So you can convince me of that. I still don't love it. Mm-hmm. It still doesn't look great. I still don't feel great about it. But if you want to convince me that it's going to work, it would have to work out that way.
Yeah, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't shocked on draft night. I think most people would agree they were shocked. But trying to understand why Brad took Jahmyr Gibbs is what I've been trying to do, and this is why I give you a lot of credit, because you're trying to make it make sense. That's the biggest part.
What do you want me to do, though? You want me to sit here and bitch and complain for the next 6 months?
You could.
That's not my job, though.
No, it's not. It's trying to understand what point of view Brad's seeing it from. And obviously with Jahmyr Gibbs, it's the explosiveness, led Alabama in receptions. I get they didn't have a ton of talent this year, but only dropped like 2 balls. I mean, the guy is consistent in the pass
Leading
game.
receiver for Alabama, like you said.
And he talked to Ben Johnson. Go check out Tim Twentyman's interview with Jahmyr. It was great. He discussed how Ben wants to utilize him. He told Jahmyr, we want to get you more involved in the pass game, especially without Jameson Williams the first 6 games. So if you get an elite threat in the passing game and somebody that you can utilize in the run game with his explosiveness. He was a kick returner on Alabama as well. He played all 3 phases in the pass game, the run game, and he played special teams. Yep. So the guy can ball. That's what's going to justify this pick. I agree with you.
Can I ask you something?
Not just strictly running the football.
Friend to friend here.
What's going on?
You've worked with me long enough.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I'm pretty out there. It's just... maybe I'm fucked up. I don't know.
Maybe.
But, look, I can't sit here and say, let Brad Holmes cook as a cover for what he did. Conventionally, it doesn't add up. But like you guys said, if this guy is going to be a hybrid of Deebo Samuel, Alvin Kamara, it's a very good football player on a very good offensive line with a good quarterback, with a very good offensive coordinator, with already a top 10 offense in the NFL you'd expect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Lions got better. And I think, to me, that was my overall takeaway, because it's hard for me to look at picks 12 and 18 and really just 12 and say, I feel awesome. I don't.
Right.
I'm good because it's Brad Holmes, and I do think he's the best GM you've ever had in this town. And I do have a lot of faith in it. Some of it may be blind faith a little bit. But that's where I'm at this morning. I think they're a better football team. That's the way you have to look at it. I think they got a lot better. I still think the Niners and the Eagles are a step ahead of them. Mm-hmm. I think they're probably still a year ahead of them. But the Lions, guys, they are one of the most fascinating projects in football right now. This is the year. This is the year to win the North and do a lot of great things.
And this is what I got to give you and Neil credit, because, one, you about the Lions, even before the draft, you kind of understanding, hey, the Brad and Dan are going to bring in guys they like specifically. And
you know what?
They're not going to take too many risks on guys like Jalen Carter, and you were right.
And Chuck said this too, and he's bringing up your point. Adam, you have talked about it. If it's your guy, you take him even if it's 5-10 spots early.
Right.
Yes, you're right, and that's why I'm okay with the Campbell pick. Again, I'm not going to sit here and say, all the experts had Jahmyr Gibbs in the middle of the second round. I'm not that guy. I'm not going to sit here and pound the table saying that, okay? What I am going to say is the Gibbs pick shocked me. It was just, it never clicked in my head that was a possibility. Mm-hmm. So I hope you understand where I'm coming from. Yeah, I'm an advocate for taking your guy. I don't care where it is. I am, of course. I just did not expect him to be that guy. I just really didn't. So We'll take a break. When we get back, were Lions fans too quick to judge Brad Holmes and the team after the first round? I think things have settled down. I think fans are much calmer. I think media are much calmer. We'll see. I mean, it's Monday. We'll get the first live reactions, but we'll get to that next at 8:30. Steph Curry dropping 50. Golden State advances. Just how good is Steph? Flannel Sam and I got into this over the weekend. I have an opinion on Steph, and I love Isaiah Thomas, and I love Magic Johnson. But I really think we have to have a conversation about Steph Curry.
Yeah.
We'll get to that at 8:30. But before we go, Jeff, our good friends over at Cintron.
Let me tell you about them, guys. Cintron is the official energy drink of the Detroit Red Wings, and right now they have an exclusive offer for Woodward sports fans for their limited edition Red Wings 6-pack. Only $15 plus free shipping. Check it out. drinkcintron.com/Woodward.
You don't have to go to the beach, man. You don't have to get your butt crack full of sand. You just need a little chili peppers, man, to get that glowing beach chili peppers tan.
Join the Pepper Club for all the best deals in town. Plus, they will beat all competitors by $5. ChiliPeppersTanning.com. Hottest bulbs, hottest deals, darkest tans. Your vitamin D headquarters.
You just need a little chili peppers, man.
We don't like to brag that we are the toughest sports network in Detroit.
But we do have a guy named Darren McCarty on our side.
Lemieux and McCarty, who've had a good knockdown drag up. There they go, right on the whistle. They were talking to one another.
Woodward Sports.
Jeff Iafrate here. Let me tell you about our friends over at Alta, because at Alta, uptime matters. Alta Equipment has everything you need to get the job done. If you have a big project coming up, Alta Rent has you covered. Call them today, 844-GO-TO-ALTA. That's 844-GO-TO-ALTA today.
All right, we're back here on the Morning Woodward Show live, woodwardsports.com. As always, Adam, Beydoun, Jeff Iafrate. If you're watching the show on YouTube, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And, of course, if you're missing the show live, you can always go back after the fact, download the podcast, leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever the hell you listen to your podcasts. Jeff, Thursday shocked everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody. We were live at 5th Ave. Braylon walked off the set. Half of the fans, all Lions fans, by the way, that were in attendance in person walked out. They didn't even stay for the after party. They just left in shock.
Yeah.
And then Friday night came. And it was Sam Laporta. And it was Jahmyr Gibbs. And it was 5 total trades up and down, back and forth.
Yeah, Brian Branch.
And then Hendon Hooker.
Yeah.
Sam Laporta, Brian Branch, Hendon Hooker, day 2. We can get to the day 3 picks, but you know how I feel about it. I think anybody at this point walking out and saying this day 3 pick was a home run, unless he was a first, second round projected player and he just fell for medical or whatever it may be. I just think it's a bunch of crap. I think it's way too early to say, but here's what I got. I got a lot of fans that were frustrated, including myself. And then I think after Friday night, I think you woke up Saturday morning feeling really good about this football team, regardless. And, you know, I've seen a lot of tweets coming out. I think one of my favorite ones, which brings a little perspective, it doesn't change the reality, but a little perspective, was if you had taken Branch at 12, Campbell at 18, Gibbs at 34, Laporta at 48, and then Hooker in the 3rd round, it would have
look a lot better, wouldn't it?
Optically, you would sit there and say, the Lions crushed the draft.
Right.
Holy shit.
Right.
Let Brad Holmes cook. You know, we do all this crap, right?
Right.
And that's fair, but that's not how the board shaped out, but it also is, it's good perspective, man.
Yeah.
It's good to kind of just take a step back and say, all right, look, these are the players they got. I think they're really good players. I think the team's a lot better this morning. I think rightfully so fans were shocked and upset. I mean, I don't blame them. But I think you're coming in Monday morning now. It's Monday. All of you are in the chat. We're all having a good conversation so far. I think it's fair to say the crowd that was defending Brad Holmes to the extreme and the crowd that were killing him to the extreme were both wrong over the weekend. I think it's okay to criticize a GM who is not perfect. No GM is perfect. And I think it's also okay to sit there and say, trust your GM, because he took you out of the Patricia hellhole and brought you to where you're at now, which is on the verge potentially of winning your first division and potentially hosting a playoff game for the first time in 30-plus years. Fair?
Fair.
So, like I always say, that both extremes are never right. I think there's always common ground. I I don't blame the fans for being upset or freaking the hell out. It's a fun weekend. It was a fun weekend, man. I really enjoyed myself. I think the moves Brad Holmes made, my goodness. We talked about this Saturday. JB, you weren't here for this, but you have to stop picking up the 313 area code. You're a GM right now, okay? All of you at home. You're a GM. I'm Brad Holmes. I give you a call. You see the 313 number on your phone? Send it to voicemail. Don't pick up. Green Bay got a 5th-round pick for Brian Branch. That's what they gave up.
Yeah.
They gave up a 5th-rounder for Brian Branch to an in-division rival. I got nothing with Brad at this point.
Didn't he do He did this last year with Minnesota, too. He got J-Mo from the Vikings.
He went up 20 picks for a 3rd-round pick.
Yeah.
Who moves up 20 picks in the 1st round of an NFL draft? The 1st round, not the 3rd, not the 2nd.
Right.
20 picks in the 1st for a 3rd-round pick in swaps. Bless them. 313 area code, guys. Don't pick it up.
Yeah, don't do it.
That's my recommendation to
trap.
every GM in the NFL right now.
Yeah, it's a trap.
Unbelievable.
And by the way, I want to bring this up too because for people that are grading the Lions draft, I've seen a couple grades over the weekend. I mean I've seen C's, D's, low B's, and here this is how I judge if the Lions had a successful draft. It starts with number one, the players, right? Where were they on Brad's draft board? It's clear that he got guys that they loved, they were in love with, they saw as the best fit for the Detroit Lions. Now let's just talk about contributors. That's what I look at, I guess, if you want to value how good of a draft a team had. It's not just the talent they were able to pick up. It's will these guys make an impact day one? You can go through all 8 players, and you can make an argument, besides Hendon Hooker, unless Jared blows his knee out. God forbid doesn't happen. But Hendon probably won't be playing at all. This is probably a wash year. They're not doing what they did last year, Adam. They took J-Mo knowing he was going to miss an entire year. Everybody they took, besides Hendon Hooker, of course, is going to make an impact. I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs will play. Jack Campbell will find ways to be able to play. Brian Branch, I mean, even if there's an injury, he'll play. But if not, you'll find ways to implement Brian Branch into the ballgame. Broderick Martin, he'll at least be in the rotation. I mean, you need defensive tackle depth. Here's Broderick Martin, a true nose tackle. I mean, you talk about giving 300 yards up to Carolina, which Neil loves to bring up. Here's a guy at 6'5", 340 that can help fix that problem. Colby Sorsdahl started all 4 years at William & Mary and also has experience as of late playing guard. That's where they see him in the NFL. So even Colby, if there's an injury, he can step in and play. Antoine Green, 7th-round pick. Without J-Mo, he's going to be able to play. 19 yards per reception. He was the deep threat at North Carolina. That's what they're going to want out of him when he comes to the Detroit Lions. So if you look at the entirety of the draft, all 8 players, besides Hendon, they will be able to play at some point. So to me, that's how I value a draft, Adam, and that's how you know Brad went into this draft thinking, we got to get guys that can help us right now. There's a window right now, and of course, Brad mentions we got to look at the future, but right now, they're favored to win the division. This is a team in the NFC, a very weak NFC, top-heavy NFC, and clearly Brad sees it, and it's his opportunity to strike, and he did just that.
Okay, how much impact did the Jameson Williams pick or suspension, have on the Laporta and the Gibbs pick? And I'm going to sit here and say 0. I don't think Brad Holmes would make a a long-term decision based on a short-term suspension. Jeff, I don't know where you sit with it, but to me, Laporta, Gibbs, interesting pieces onto an already very good offense. Laporta especially, that's the interesting one. Because you saw last year forget Brock Wright, forget all of them. You traded Hawkinson down that stretch in the 10 games, golfed through 18 touchdowns, 1 interception.
Yeah. 12 of those, 8
of them to a tight end.
Yes, 3 was to TJ.
8 of them to the tight end.
Yep.
That is encouraging because all the routes, and I explained this on Saturday's show in the morning, which is all the double tight end sets that you run, where you run heavy play action, let's say in theory to the right, and you're going to have now Sam Laporta, who it used to be Brock Wright, running an underneath route across the other side of the field on a one-on-one matchup. I mean, we saw Brock Wright score against the Giants, I believe.
The Jets.
Yep, I got this again. I said the same thing last time.
Teams, baby.
Against the Jets, he scored the same way. You're going to see this now with David Montgomery on the field, Jahmyr Gibbs. The way I justify the picks now, and not so much the Gibbs one, but just overall, looking at their board, I'm a defensive coordinator. I got to close my eyes and say, okay, I got to deal with one of the best offensive lines in football. I got to get pressure on a quarterback who I know if I get pressure on, I'll rattle him a little bit. I mean, we're not talking about Mahomes here or Josh Allen or one of the top 5, Burrow, but any quarterback for that matter. If you get pressure on him, you affect them.
Right.
So I got to worry about that. I got to stop the run because that's going to enable their play action. Oh, and when they do run the ball, I have to commit bodies in the box. And if they run the play action, well, I have to think of Amon-Ra St. Brown, who is open at almost any time on the field. Now I have to deal with Sam Laporta running across God knows where in the middle of the field, underneath. He's going to be in a one-on-one matchup with the linebacker. I then have to keep a high safety because after 6 games, it's going to be Jameson Williams running down the field. Oh, and Jahmyr Gibbs is an option, and I have to worry about him now as well. I think it's a nightmare for a defensive coordinator, any defensive coordinator, any defense for that matter.
Oh, you think about last year, how explosive this offense was without J-Mo. And now you're getting J-Mo after 6 games, and you're getting Jahmyr Gibbs. Think about those 2 players. You could argue just those 2 alone will be one of the most explosive, 1 to 2 punch players in the NFL. You look at Jahmyr, his ability to hit the home run. He did it at Alabama. Jameson's the same way. This offense, when Jameson gets back, you have Sam Laporta, and you brought up that route by Brock Wright. Imagine if that was Sam Laporta, the guy who can't get tackled.
He wouldn't have been touched on
one of
the
the
way to that
fastest,
touchdown.
if not the fastest tight end in this draft. Yeah, it's
the most tackles.
It's different. So for Laporta, he comes into a position group which last year they found ways to utilize it. He might be already one of the best tight ends you got. Like I like James Mitchell, but Sam Laporta to me is better than Zylstra. Although Zylstra had some nice games last year, but it's pretty. But still, he walks in as one of your better tight ends. To me, that's great value.
Let me say this, and I think we both agree on this. We talk about this all the time, and that's that the Lions' offense is one of the most unselfish offenses in the NFL. This isn't an offense, and I don't mean this in a bad way, right? I don't mean this that the players or the teams are selfish, but this isn't an offense that features Tyreek Hill or Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson or Devontae Adams, right? This is an offense that literally goes through progression after progression after progression on every play. And whoever the open man is, whoever the target man is going to get the ball. That's how we play. Now add Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, and hopefully when Jameson Williams comes back, he'll be a threat. You have so many options, so many toys, if you want to call it, toys for Ben Johnson to play with. This offense is going to be scary. I think it's a guaranteed top 10 offense. Sky's the limit in terms of points per game, total yards. I think the only tricky part here is how good are they running the ball this year? Last year they were above average. They were the top half of the league, but do they change their style this year? I think they're going to be relatively the same. I just think they're going to be more efficient. So
my big question mark is what do they get out of the wide receiver room besides Amon-Ra St. Brown? That's probably the big thing I'm going to be watching until J-Mo gets back because, Marvin Jones Jr., solid, but he's not the Marvin Jones that was in Detroit years ago. And then you got now Josh Reynolds, who's solid. He's a wide receiver 3, a guy you can rely on. Him and Goff have chemistry there. But Antoine Green, you get in the 7th round. Khalif Raymond, he's productive. He's like a lightning in a bottle when he's down the field. He's probably the deep threat until J-Mo gets back. But I'm curious which guys step up until J-Mo gets back. Because once he gets back, you got a complete offense now. We're talking.
I love it. Look what I want to do. I want to take a break from the Lions stuff. 8:45, coming up in about 15 minutes. We want to go into the Lions draft strategy. It was unpredictable. It was fascinating. It was compelling. It was so many things. And I want to get to that with Jeff at 8:45. I want to continue at 9 o'clock to go through the mindset, the upgrades they made. This is a team that doesn't really care about conventional logic. They're going for the players they want and the needs that they believe they have. And then we'll get to the draft board, biggest surprises, biggest winners, losers among the NFL. And then Jeff and I will hand out our latest grades for the Lions round by round. It'll be a fun show. But coming up next, Steph Curry drops 50, Golden State advances. How about 2 upsets last night in the NHL playoffs? Game 7, Colorado sent home, Boston sent home. Unbelievable night of action. All that coming up next. But before we do, Jeff, our good friends over at Guardian Alarm.
Oh, let's talk about this defense real quick. Guardian Alarm, an elite defense. Let them offer you customized solutions from real experts, 24/7 professional monitoring, and technology that's backed by people. Your safety and security deserves technology that's not only been proven to work, but by people that have been proven to care. Call 1-800-STAY-OUT for more information.
Introducing the Planet Fitness Guide to getting that post-workout glow. Step 1. What's your why? More epic energy? Better sleep? Blow off steam? Step 2. Join Planet Fitness for just $10 a month and get moving in our clean and spacious clubs. Step 3. Bask in that post-workout glow. Join Planet Fitness today for just $10 a month.
Join today at any of the 50-plus Detroit area locations.
It's a great day to get some Centron in your life. Okay. There it is. Centron, here we go. Gotta grab the cranberry. Oh wait, it's 2 for $4. Gotta double up with the classic as well. Centron World, baby. Centron, available at select Krogers, and if you wanna know how, go to @CentronWorld.com. You get dope like me. You know what? Why wait? Great taste, guaranteed.
We are the network for Detroit.
By Detroiters.
Welcome to the Woodward Sports Network.
Gentlemen, low sex drive, tired, depressed, unmotivated, whatever it is. My good friends Dr. Jason and his team over at Custom Health Centers have a safe and effective way to restore your vitality, and it is through their testosterone optimization therapy. Give them a call today, 877-965-0910. For more information and to change your life, that's 877-965-0910. We are back here on the Morning Woodward Show live. WoodwardSports.com. As always, Adham, Beydoun, Jeff, Iafrate. All right, Jeff. Steph Curry last night dropped 50. Jesus. And it was... Let's just start with context. The most points ever scored in a Game 7 in the NBA playoffs, ever. He surpassed Kevin Durant, who had 48 previously in a losing effort. And Steph put on 50, down 0-2 to come back and win the series in 7. It was unbelievable. But I have a Steph Curry confession to make. And I just don't know why we have to wait, or I got to see another championship, or I got to see this. Like, at the end of the day, this guy has revolutionized the game. He's completely changed it. I think the way he plays basketball is so unique. I think it's fair to say nobody's ever played the game like Steph Curry. You know, we say that about Jordan. We say that about LeBron, Shaq. Some of the all-time greats, what do they all have in common? They played a certain way. Nobody played like Magic Johnson. Nobody came into the league like Isaiah did when he did and dribbled the ball like he did as a guard. That was just uncommon. Mm-hmm. Steph Curry, his movement off the ball, his value off the ball, both offense and defensively, it doesn't matter. He's nothing short of exceptional. I am so impressed with Steph Curry. He's not only a top 2 point guard of all time, he is slowly but surely cementing himself as one of the best players to ever play this game. Look, you can cry with the rings. We can do the conversations. That's great. You can point to me to the triple-doubles. He doesn't play enough defense, da-da-da-da-da. He's lucky. He's this. He's that. He had Kevin Durant for 2 years. That's great. I don't care about any of that. All I know is Steph Curry is one of the best basketball players I've ever seen play. I think he's easily the best basketball player that's been playing for the last 10 years outside of LeBron James. We give Giannis the crown. We give Jason Tatum. Can't wait to anoint him. We can't wait to anoint all these guys. Luka Doncic, Nikola Jokic, whoever it is, Joel Embiid. And Steph Curry's out there dropping 50 at 35 years old, down 0-2 against a better team, the 3-seed Sacramento Kings, who had the Coach of the Year, Clutch Player of the Year, Most Improved Player of the Year, Sixth Man of the Year. That's what the Kings fielded. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't enough. I am so excited for the next series, but I'm sorry, dude. I love Isaiah. I love Magic.
Yeah.
But I think you have to have a legitimate conversation that this is the greatest point guard we've ever seen play the game of basketball.
No, I would disagree with you there. But he is the second best, and you're right. Over the last 10 years, and you mentioned something interesting. Besides LeBron, over the last 10 years, Steph has been that guy. Are we just going to kind of skim over the fact that Kevin Durant plays basketball in the National Basketball Association? Are we just going to slide over that? Because if my memory serves correctly, when he joined the Warriors, there wasn't much doubt. He was immediately the best player on the Warriors. And him or LeBron, it was the debate. Even through those years where LeBron was going at it with the Warriors with KD, it was KD or LeBron. So that's really the big knock on Steph. As great as he is, I mean, he's, again, 1 or 2, wherever you want to put him. I would disagree he's 2.
So
One,
give me the
excuse
argument.
me.
Give me the argument.
Okay, well, I'll tell you this.
Why I can't put him over Magic.
Well, I'll tell you this. Number one, Magic's always been the best player on every team he's been a part of. So
better than Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's rookie year.
Better
than James Worthy.
He has more Finals MVPs than Curry. So if we talk about winning championships, Magic, based on the award, had more of an input. So Steph Curry with Kevin Durant won 2 championships. We can't just skim over that.
So let me. I would love to have this
Magic
Finals
as an
MVP
individual player.
Do you agree Iguodala shouldn't have won the Finals MVP?
It's not about whether he should have or shouldn't. It's what did happen.
Oh, okay.
So
let me tell you what did happen in 2017 and 2018.
Okay.
Kevin Durant won the Finals MVP, averaging just over 30 points a game, 6 rebounds and 6 assists roughly in the NBA Finals. Steph Curry rode his coattails by averaging just over 29 points a game with 8 rebounds and 9.4 assists a game. In the first finals. Second finals, I believe it was 27-6-6. KD, clearly the MVP in that one. I'll give him that. I think it was 31-5-8 or 31-10-8, actually. I'm doing the numbers wrong. But why can't I anoint him because of a finals MVP accolade? Does that take away from his greatness? Does that take away from the fact that he won before KD and he's won after KD?
Well, hold on.
KD is yet to win without him. And we sit there and give KD all this glory when we don't knock LeBron for going to join D. Wade and winning Finals MVPs there, but we're going to sit here and knock Steph. Steph has always been the most valuable player on the Golden State Warriors, even when Kevin Durant was there. He was the enabler. He was the one that was getting the double teams. He was the one that was dealing with all the pressure, and KD got to play with 0 pressure because he was on the Golden State Warriors with Steph Curry and Draymond Green.
But even without pressure, he still won 2 Finals MVPs for the Golden State Warriors. And don't forget what happened the year prior to KD joining the Golden State Warriors. Are we just going to skim over that?
No, they blew a 3-1 lead in the NBA Finals. Absolutely.
And that was Steph Curry as your best
one
player.
Of the 2-3 greatest players of all time.
Absolutely. I mean, you know how I feel about LeBron.
Exactly.
But just to make the point, this isn't even about knocking Curry. I think Curry, when it's all said and done, and that's the scary part about Curry, he still has years left to be able to play with this core of players on the Golden State Warriors. So who knows what he has left to accomplish. But anointing him based on, because if I'm looking at the point guard position with what Magic's done, you talk about how Curry's changed the game. Well, don't forget Magic changed the game as well.
No,
being 6'9",
there's a big difference.
There's a difference in how they changed the game.
No.
Curry with his 3-point shot.
You can't say Magic changed the game because nobody can do what Magic Johnson did. That's the point.
Well,
can anybody just be LeBron James? Can anybody just be Magic Johnson? Can anybody be Michael Jordan, 6'6",
no.
super athletic,
no, of course not.
Unbelievable mid-range game, the skills, the drive? No. But Steph Curry's 6'2". Steph Curry is a normal human. Steph Curry shows you how to play the game of basketball with and without the basketball. James Harden should take a lesson. Russell Westbrook, Luka Doncic, you can go on and on and on. Damian Lillard. Steph Curry is showing you how to play the game of basketball without having all the size, the athleticism, the ability to dominate a game with your physical attributes like a Giannis can, like a LeBron can. He's dominating the game, and he's the most undersized guard in the league, making the impact he's making. Look, when we say change the game, I think only a few players have ever done that. And I think change the game depends on what you want to say. On the court, I think Steph Curry has changed the game on the court. Off the court, Michael Jordan making it global, LeBron James making free agency really a viable option
Magic would
for
be
stars.
Also in that off the court. He saved the NBA at the time.
Him and Larry Bird, that's fair,
that rivalry.
But when we talk about players that have changed the game of basketball, it is now acceptable for guards to jack up threes. It is now acceptable for a 6'1", 6'2" guard to be on the roster if they're capable of shooting. I think we underappreciate Steph's brilliance because he doesn't dominate physically. He's not the most physically imposing player, yet he attacks the basket and shoots over 70% in the paint. How? He's 6'2". He's the smallest guy. His touch, his dribbling, Jeff. I don't think it's fair because you're right. Magic is so great. It's so great. But what Steph is doing, it's never been done before at his position, at his size. We literally saw this with AI, and AI couldn't overcome it. Why? He was too ball dominant. Steph Curry is great without the ball. I think that's what separates him from any guard in NBA history.
And it's crazy to think, too, Magic, even with all the accomplishments, he still has more championships. He has more All-NBAs. Like, he has more MVPs. And think about that for a second. He retired at 30 years old.
Who?
Magic.
Oh, yeah.
So think about that. More MVPs, more championships, more All-NBAs, and he retired at 30 years old.
Yeah.
Like, so Curry, and that's the argument I would use as well. Like, Magic, unfortunately, had his career ended short. And that's, maybe you disagree with that, me having Magic won. It's all opinionated. If you want to make an argument for Curry, I think you can. I would disagree with you. But again, I think Curry has at least entered the conversation. He's been doing that for quite some time, especially if he wins another championship, because then at that point he's tied with Magic, and then you could really pulling teeth for arguments at this point. Oof. But I'm still going to put Magic number 1. I'm not willing to crown Curry yet, but he's 2. It's like, it's not the biggest thing in the world here. It's not like he's.
It's fine. That's fine, man. I just, again.
You know, you got a man crush on Curry.
The nostalgia, the way we remember players. It's, again, just look at the basketball player. Look at his impact with and without the ball. There is no guard in NBA history that's ever done what Steph Curry is doing, and he's still doing at 35 years old. We give LeBron all this credit for being dominant into his late 30s. I don't do. Jeff, our good friends over at Chili Peppers Tanning.
Chili Peppers Tanning is where you'll find all the cleanest salons in the D with spotless, sanitized rooms and trained and certified tanning professionals. You can join the Pepper Club for all the best deals to beat all competitors.
Okay, there it is. Centron, here we go. Gotta grab the cranberry. Oh, wait, it's 2 for $4. Gotta double up with the classic as well. Centron World, baby. Centron, available at select Kroger's, and if you want to know how, go to @CentronWorld.com. You get dope like me. You know what? Why wait? Great taste, guaranteed.
Walk into any Lady Jane's Haircuts for Men for an award-winning haircut experience and automatically enter for your chance to win not 1, but 2 vehicles of your choice, courtesy of Les Stanford Buick GMC of Ferndale. That's right, 2 cars, 1 for you, 1 for your wife, your girlfriend, or your best bud. Lady Jane's Haircuts for Men, open 7 days a week. Walk in anytime, sign in, sit down, watch your favorite team play, and before you know it, your hair will be game ready. Let one of our talented, award-winning stylists make you look handsome and clean. Lady Jane's Haircuts for Men, it's wicked awesome.
Since the dawn of moving people, Chevrolet has led the way. The world of transportation is changing. At Feldman Chevrolet, we are leading the charge forward. With every electric vehicle, every mile traveled, one Feldman at a time. The company that puts more Chevys on Michigan roads is now the #1 name for Chevy electric vehicles.
Woodward Avenue, the first paved road in America.
Woodward Sports,
The first sports network born in Detroit
and made for Detroit.
Strawberry Fest is back at Big Boy. Try classic breakfast items like some strawberry hotcakes or mouth-watering red velvet waffle. And if you're not feeling breakfast, it's okay. You could try the strawberry bacon chicken wrap or cool off with the refreshing summer splash salad. Don't forget, try it all and more at Big Boy.
All right, we're back here on the Morning Woodward Show live, woodwardsports.com. The Detroit Lions had themselves quite the weekend. Split reviews. You and I will give our draft grades later on in the show. But what I want to walk through is something I think should be touched on, which is they got the players they wanted. And I think we read too much into that at times because what are you going to tell me? They didn't do that last year?
Right.
Or the year prior? So, look, it worked out in their favor. Did they reach? Look, let's just all be honest here. According to all the data, all of the recent NFL history, the pick at 12 was a reach. Fair? Is it fair to say it was a reach?
Yeah.
Just off of historical data.
Yes, yeah.
Not to say the player's not going to be very good, right?
Yeah.
18 I can live with. To me, it's acceptable given his projections. I don't mind. The tight end at 34, better than taking a tight end at 10 and 13.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Thank you very much. I don't mind that at all. Brian Branch at pick 40. No, they traded out. I think it was like 51, I believe, 52, something like that. But then you go to the Hendon Hooker. And it was all guys that they identified that they wanted. And what did they all have in common? High character, captains, play hard, leaders on the football team, on and off the field. There's a theme growing here. I know people love to say talent wins NFL games. I don't necessarily believe that's 100% true. I think it depends on your situation, right? If you have average coaching, you're going to need a lot of talent to compensate for that. If you have elite level coaching, you don't need much talent to win a lot of games in this league. That's just how it works out. So they're building a team that fits their model, their mold. Whether or not it's going to be hyper successful, Super Bowls, NFC Championship games, I don't know. I'd love to believe that. That's what you're all in this game for.
Yeah.
But I think it all comes down to progressional steps. You start with the division, you host a playoff game, you win a playoff game, and then I think we can start talking about this team as a legitimate NFC and Super Bowl contender for that matter.
Right.
And the Cowboys, damn it, were Super Bowl contenders not even just 2 years ago after winning a playoff game and getting to the divisional round. So you just got to accomplish a little bit to be in the conversation. That's the goal this year, is to accomplish that a little bit. But, Jeff, looking at the draft, it was unpredictable. I don't think anybody would have called Gibbs and Campbell in the first round prior to the draft. That was a complete shock to a lot of people. Overall, they got the players they wanted.
Mm-hmm.
It's their model. It's their draft strategy. They value that more than anything. Are they wrong for it? Depends on the players if they work out.
Right.
If Jameson Williams misses the 6 games, comes out and doesn't play well, and then it gets hurt or is suspended for some stupid reason, well, then you have a problem.
Yeah, then we're in trouble.
Right? And then that's a missed pick. But overall, they've earned a lot of credit. They haven't won anything yet, but they've at least earned a lot of credit on how they've built the team. Now they just got to go out and deliver at this point. And I think Brad Holmes brought that up over the weekend.
Yep, he did. And I'm glad you brought up the kind of character traits that Brad Holmes is looking for when he's identifying players, because you see a common theme, right? You mentioned it, team captains. I mean, Sam Laporta, if I'm not mistaken, he was the captain offensively. Yep. Then you had Jack Campbell, who clearly was the captain defensively. And we know the saying, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. That's the big theme here with the Detroit Lions. Guys that love football. I mean, Jack Campbell, if you heard him speak, Jack Campbell looked like he could suit up right now and play. He had that type of enthusiasm, and it's a common theme. So last year, and I kind of mentioned this earlier, the Lions could afford to take some risks, and risks meaning Jameson Williams coming off an ACL injury. You're allowed to give him that year gap for him to get back. This year, you needed to know what you're getting in these players, and Brad saw that. Even in the first round, you could call Jameer a reach, typically, historically, based on pass-catching running backs, or you can call Jack Campbell a reach on inside linebackers, the value in which the NFL, typically thinks about inside linebackers. But the big thing to take away is all these players right away are going to be able to make an impact. And again, guys that you don't have to worry about, like Jack Campbell, you don't have to worry about Jack Campbell. You know he's going to put in the work. Jahmyr Gibbs, you don't have to worry about Jahmyr Gibbs. You saw what Nick Saban thought of him and talked highly about Jahmyr Gibbs. Brad Holmes fell in love with him. You don't have to worry about a guy like Sam Laporta, who, as much as of a threat as he is in the passing game, his ability to break tackles, he's a hell of a blocker. And you're seeing a common theme with Jahmyr, Sam Laporta, drafting Colby Sorsdahl late in the draft. They want to run the football. They want to be stout, especially at the offensive line, at the line of scrimmage. And although they didn't address the defensive tackle as early as some people would have liked, they can't afford, and even I will admit this, I'm okay with taking a risk on Jalen Carter, but let's be honest, the Eagles are in a much better position to take a risk on a guy like Jalen Carter. Looking at the depth they have on their defensive line, the veterans they have in play, the Lions clearly just wanted guys, they know what they have, and they got a lot of those guys, Adam, throughout the draft, all A players.
Oh, you know what? You're right. But more importantly, more important than anything, I think, they have an opportunity, and not just an opportunity, they've addressed, I think, some of the things we've been bitching about for years now. Let's be fair. Mm-hmm. DeAndre Swift, never available. What would this offense look like with a healthy DeAndre Swift? If only Alex Anzalone and Malcolm Rodriguez weren't the starting linebackers on this team. Jack Campbell, Jahmyr Gibbs. Trade DeAndre Swift to the Eagles, which, by the way, the fact that they even got a 4th-round pick for him, impressive.
Yeah.
Impressive. I was not expecting that. Good on the Lions. I do believe, though, the Eagles are due for a compensatory pick if Swift hits free agency and signs. Is that correct? Or is it if he re-signs?
If I'm not mistaken, I don't know if it goes to the Eagles in a way.
It goes to the Eagles.
Yes, because the Eagles in a way could trade a fourth and still get a fourth if
Yes.
Swift walks. So it's smart trade by the Eagles, to be honest with you.
So that's the problem with Swift, and that's why you draft Gibbs. Last year, my goodness, you saw him against Washington. He was electric. Philly, he was electric. It was unbelievable, right? And you're like, man, this offense. And then he's just in and out of the lineup, and my shoulder hurts. I can't play right now. I missed 4 weeks. And I'll catch 2 balls, and I'll carry the ball 3 times, and Jamal can carry the other 20 times. You're like, dude, what's going on here? What are we doing? What the hell are we doing? So the fact that they addressed it, now let's just be honest, they addressed the problems you had last year. Running back was never available. And you need a dynamic running back in that type of Ben Johnson offense, even though Gibbs is a completely different player, I think, than DeAndre Swift. Mm-hmm. I think he's probably more of an 80% catching back and 20% a running back by trade, by definition.
Right.
Especially, at least that's how I think the Lions will use him, at least. But, look, overall, that's just the reality.
Mm-hmm.
They did what they did. They have a draft philosophy. Whether or not bites them in the ass, to be determined.
Right.
But I don't think I'm walking away after the 23 draft and I'm saying, man, the Lions didn't get better, Jeff. They did.
Yeah.
They did. They got better at tight end. They got better at linebacker. Hopefully they'll be better at running back. Hopefully he's healthy. Hopefully there are no issues there. David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, I think it's a very good backfield. It's a very good 1-2 punch. You made your offense, which was already really good, even better.
Mm-hmm.
And on defense, look, let's not forget the free agency period they had. C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Cam Sutton, Emmanuel Mosley. They went out and did work in the secondary. They took care of business. Yeah, would you have loved to seen a defensive tackle earlier in the draft? Maybe. But you know what? Brian Branch, Jack Campbell, those are 2 very good players, and it's hard for me to complain about good football players.
Yeah,
it really is.
That's absolutely. And even, looking at the, UDFAs, the Lions have signed as well. They got a handful of guys. My favorite 2, Muhammad Ibrahim, who I had mock. When we did mock drafts, I had him
5th, 6th round.
Yeah, we had him consistently 6th, 7th round.
Medical, I believe, or the wear and tear of how many carries he got in Minnesota.
Yeah. Last year,
deciding factor.
Speaking of a workhorse, but he got 100,000 guaranteed. Muhammad Ibrahim, another one, Brandon Joseph, the safety out of Notre Dame, who was at Northwestern. They again, this is Jerry Jacobs, fan favorite. He was a UDFA when he was first brought in. So Brad, not only in the draft, who he's bringing in right after the draft, he's still looking for players that can find a spot on this team. And you can't argue the Lions got better. I think that's the biggest thing to take away. Did the Lions have a good draft? I think so, because they got guys that can play immediately, they got guys they love, and they got guys that can make an impact. No doubt, Brian Branch.
Okay, so we agree.
Hendon Hooker, if you want to talk about taking a quarterback in the third round.
But there's something about Brian. Having a player like Brian Branch, I've been the biggest advocate for any football team. Draft Alabama captains on the defensive side of the ball.
And starting as true freshmen.
You'll never regret it. You'll never regret it. Eli Ricks, I'm not sure if he signed anywhere yet. I know he went undrafted.
Yep,
you want to talk about a guy that after his first year at Bama was projected to be a top 10 pick?
Signed with Philly as a
and
UDFA.
Then went undrafted the following year?
Yep.
Unbelievable. Good for him. Philly's a great landing spot for him. So Eli Ricks, I'd love to learn more about why he fell out. I haven't really caught up. Whether it's medical, I'm not sure what the hell's going on there, but he was a top 10 pick consensus just over a year and a half ago.
And you know what's crazy, too? We bring up guys like Eli Ricks, and then you watch the draft, and Stetson Bennett, even off the field issues, he goes in the 4th round. And again, this is a player we had typically 6th, 7th round. He was projected to go undrafted. This is why mock drafts and pre-draft analysis, nobody knows what any of these teams are doing. So, again, it's just funny to see how it works out that way. No doubt about it.
Jeez. Today can't get any better. I just got a great email.
Those are always the best type of days.
I'm working here. What are you going to do? All right, look. We're going to take a break. When we get back, top of the hour, Jeff, I want to continue on with the Lions draft talk, upcoming expectations. 9:15, we'll go over the biggest surprises, biggest losers, winners from the 2023 NFL Draft. You got to look at teams just in the NFC alone. Seattle, Philly. I think those teams got a lot better as well. Tough to say the Lions had the best draft, especially when you compare them to some of these teams. We'll do that next. But before we go, Jeff, our good friends over at Swiss Insurance.
Let me tell you about them. Be sure to check with Swiss Insurance this week for your commercial insurance review. Swiss can help make sure you have the proper coverage. Swiss Insurance, give them a shot. You won't be disappointed. Mark at SwissINS.com for more information.
By now you know me, Christina Gennari, as the obvious choice in real estate. And you know my website, soldchristina.com, as your #1 resource for buying or selling your home. Myself, along with my amazing staff, pride ourselves on making your home buying and selling experience a relaxing and easy one. Come see why we are the obvious choice. Christina Gennari at soldchristina.com, the obvious choice in real estate.
Can't get enough Woodward Sports content? Head over to woodwardsports.com right now for up-to-date sports articles and great entertainment news. We have the best writers, bloggers, and coverage all at your fingertips. Head to woodwardsports.com right now to experience all Woodward Sports has to offer.
All right, we're back here on the Morning Woodward Show live, woodwardsports.com. Adham, Beydoun, Jeff, Iafrate. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the Woodward Sports YouTube channel. And, of course, if you missed the show live, you can always go back after the fact. Download the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever the hell you listen to your podcasts. Jeff, here's what I want to do. Okay, I want you to walk everybody through Jeff's mindset going into the draft. Okay? And it's not about what you were right or wrong about. I don't really care about that right now. What I care about is positions of need, players you liked, you didn't like, you didn't expect. Draft night. Your reactions were hilarious with Neil Rule. I will say I enjoyed watching that, especially the Jack Campbell pick. But walk me through. You've sat on it now 4 days.
Yeah.
It's been 4 days. Monday morning, everybody in the chat's excited. Lions are going to win the division. This team can win 11, 12, 13 games. Everybody's excited. Where's Jeff at this morning with the football team?
More optimistic, much more optimistic than I think I was Thursday. I think when the draft initially goes down and you spend months prepping for the draft and trying to get really a feel for where players are going to go, what players fit with the Detroit Lions. And again, we don't know as much information as Brad Holmes, I think we're willing to admit. So it's not about what I think or what I want to happen or what I think should have happened. It's about trying to understand how Brad views it, what Brad was trying to do, and what Brad was trying to accomplish. And after trying to digest that over the last couple of days, watching the draft, it's gotten a lot more easy to digest. And I've seen a lot, social media, Lions Twitter, all Lions fans, I think, have a much easier job now digesting it because on draft night, there wasn't as much positivity flowing in the air as there have been yesterday, today, really the last couple days. So trying to understand it, looking at each pick individually, and then taking everything into consideration. Brad Holmes clearly wanted guys. They saw the window. Neil talked about this a lot on Big D, and I got to give credit to Neil because for me at least, I was in a split mode between getting guys that could contribute right now and then also kind of looking towards the future. Brad really went all in right now. Brian Branch, another pick, I think, for the future. Hendon for the future. But still, for the most part, getting guys that can make an impact right away. And seeing that Brad did that, that's his job as general manager, to get this team, to improve this team in the offseason. He did that with the draft, with free agency. He did that with the draft as well. So Brad's job, he accomplished it. You brought in guys that can play, good players, and again, whether Sam Laporta is the second best tight end or not, whether Jahmyr Gibbs is worth the pick at 12, all this stuff you're going to find out in the season. So to sit here and try and project where players are going to, how they're going to perform is useless at this point. Just trying to understand where Brad's coming from. And after I did that, I'm much more positive about what Brad did. And honestly, it's exciting. I mean, to see now with Swift being traded, it's Jahmyr and David Montgomery. With Jack Campbell coming into the linebacker room, Brian Branch, what they did with the secondary as well. Brad's done this every offseason, identified a weakness on this team, and has completely turned it around. He's been doing that year in and year out. This year was the secondary. Here comes Emmanuel Mosley, Cam Sutton, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Brian Branch, Brandon Joseph as a UDFA. Yep. Brad is very self-aware as a GM, and I think when people understand the whole let Brad cook, it's not a blind thing. Fans aren't just always – I know there's some fans that are like that. No matter what Brad does, I'm going to defend him. But once you really try and take a step back and look at this draft, look at the offseason, I don't know how you can't be more optimistic about what the Lions are going to do this year as division favorites in the NFC.
Let's start where it all started, just over 2.5 years ago. Matthew Stafford traded in the offseason for 2 first-round picks and Jared Goff. Mm-hmm. You want to know what those picks have turned out to be? The trade is now officially complete. The Lions gave Matthew Stafford and the Super Bowl to the Rams, and the Lions received Jared Goff, Iffy, Jamison Williams, Josh Pascal, Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, Roderick Martin. That is what came up out of the Lions-Rams deal.
Yep.
All the first, second-round picks they got, those are the players. And I'm not going to sit here and say the Lions won the deal. They didn't. The Rams won a Super Bowl. But it's important to acknowledge that that was a huge win for the Lions.
Oh, yeah.
Even if they gave up Stafford. It kickstarted the rebuild. It gave a very capable GM a ton of draft capital to maneuver with, and you've seen already what he's done with it in just over 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I couldn't be happier with Brad Holmes. I really couldn't. I'm not going to sit here and say I love the Jahmyr Gibbs pick. I told you how it could make sense to me, but it still has to make sense. They have to go out on the field, and hopefully he's a very good football player, which I do think he will be. But let's just be honest. You got a guy in Brad Holmes who says we don't draft scared, we don't play scared, and he stuck to his philosophy. Year one, Penei Sewell fell to you, okay? He didn't fall to you in the sense that he slipped because he was a bad player.
No.
He slipped because 3 teams took a quarterback. Kyle Pitts was a generational tight end. Jamar Chase was a generational wide receiver. And, Miami needed a wide receiver to give to Tua Tagovailoa so they could figure out if he was their quarterback or not. So he didn't fall to you in the sense of, man, teams don't like that guy. But there he is. That's how he starts his draft. And then it's Ali McNeil, Levi Onwuzurike. It's third round, fourth round picks, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Derek Barnes. And then you get to the next year, Aiden Hutchinson, Jamison Williams, Josh Pascal. Then you get to the later rounds, and then you find a Kirby Joseph, Malcolm Rodriguez.
Mm-hmm.
The guy's always found players. I look at the list now. Sam Laporta, Jahmyr Gibbs, Brian Branch, Hendon Hooker, Jack Campbell. I mean, those 5 alone, I don't even have to think about if one of the guys that were selected after them end up being good. Mm-hmm. Those 5 already are just mind-boggling to me. They walked away with 5 very good football players and a bunch of insurance.
Yeah.
A lot of insurance policies, Jeff.
Yeah, some of the best of their position, too. And on top of that, guys that are respected at their programs. I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs, respected for what he did this year at Alabama. Jack Campbell, respected for his career at Iowa. Sam Laporta, respected as well. Like these guys, Brian Branch, started as a true freshman in Alabama. Nick Saban knew what he had in Brian Branch. And still, to be a true, I don't think people understand this, to be a true freshman starter on, again, a championship collegiate team in Alabama with arguably the greatest head coach of all time in college football, that takes skill. I mean, Patrick Surtain did it, and Patrick Surtain's a pretty good football player. So for Brian Branch to do it, you got value. So again, we're looking at it from a 4,000-foot perspective, getting guys that are uber productive, guys that are respected. I mean, even the guy you brought up, the 2 guys you brought up, Jahmyr Gibbs and Sam Laporta, each led their team in receptions. So it's not about just finding the right character traits in guys. It's about, are they productive? The players he's been able to pick up, Adam, they've been all productive, and they've all been, coach's favorites. So we'll see how it works out. You're seeing a common theme here with Brad, just getting guys, at least this year, come in right away. And they're going to do that. All 8 players will find a way to play this year.
This is my favorite list you brought up to me on Saturday morning show after the fact. And you said, Adam, I love Jack Campbell. I didn't think they'd get him at 18. But if you look at the previous Butkus Award winners, I mean, very, very few players miss when they go into the NFL. Let's skip on the Nakobe Dean.
He hasn't played. We don't know
because
yet.
we need at least 2-3 years of playing, right? So we'll start in 2019. Isaiah Simmons, then Devin White, and the year prior, Roquan Smith, Reuben Foster, Jalen Smith, Eric Kendricks, C.J. Mosley, Manti Te'o, Luke Kuechly, Von Miller, Aaron Curry, Patrick Willis, Derek Johnson, Teddy Lehman, LeVar Arrington. I mean, the list goes. E.J. Henderson.
Pretty good linebackers.
I mean, these 85% of the time in the last 20, 25 years, the Butkus Award winner has been at the worst a very good linebacker. Some All-Pro, some Hall of Famers. I'll take that trend.
Yeah.
If I had to bank on anything, thank God.
Yeah.
There's at least some data point I can look at and say, oh, we're good.
Yeah.
That's why I get not nervous, but frustrated with the Gibbs pick is, all right, who was taken in the top 15 as running back over the last 15 years? Fuck. More misses than hits. And even the hits, were they worth it? That's always debatable with running backs. But again, Jahmyr Gibbs, you expect him to be a high-volume pass catcher in this offense, carried the ball 6-7 times a game. Is that fair to say, or do you think
no,
more?
I think 15 touches for him immediately. I think he's good.
I think 4 or 5 catches along with 6, 7, 8 carries a game is probably the peak average come end of season. If this guy ends up with 60, anywhere from 55 to 63 catches, I would consider that a very good rookie season for him.
Yeah, especially what his value will be in the receiving game, because we're going to see a lot more out of Jahmyr Gibbs. Even though he was good at Alabama, didn't drop too many balls, was productive, they used him in the pass game, he's good. And Ben talked to Jahmyr about this. We're gonna open that up for you. The route tree is going to be expanded. How you're utilized will be expanded. So I think you're going to see a much better version of, or I guess I should say a much more productive version of Jahmyr Gibbs at the professional level. And again, you got Ben Johnson drawing up plays, so typically nobody's mad about that, especially with Jahmyr Gibbs. Another weapon for Ben Johnson.
Can I ask you something?
And Jared Goff.
We have 8 minutes? Not even. We have 7 minutes. Hendon Hooker. I think we have a divided fan base on this. I think there's 50% that think he is the next franchise quarterback. That's what they drafted him for. And I think there's 50% that's a mix of people who think either A, he's not good enough, he's just average, B, he's just an insurance policy, and then C, at best, he can be a decent quarterback in the NFL that you back up and you trade him in the future. I think that's where the fan base is at right now. Where are you with Hendon Hooker? What do you think of him as a player, as a prospect? I know the age thing gets thrown around all the time. Goff is only 28. Hooker's 25. So it's not that much of a difference, to be honest with you. But what are your thoughts on this?
And especially looking at, just real quick, what Jared Goff accomplished in the NFL at 25, considering that Hendon's just entering the NFL at 25. To me, it's a low risk, potentially high reward. That's how you have to look at it. It's very little risk. You're drafting a guy in Hendon Hooker who arguably could have been a first-round pick. A lot of people had him as the 3rd, 4th best quarterback, however you want to look at it. A guy that could have won the Heisman, should have won the Heisman if he didn't get injured before that ACL injury. So again, there's a lot of value in getting Hendon Hooker. I know the age is something that I've talked about. I know it's something that a lot of people bring up. To me, I don't really care. You're getting an experienced guy that can back up Jared Goff. At the very least, he's a backup, a serviceable backup, a guy that you can utilize potentially in goal line packages as well with his mobility. And again, the upside, and Brad sees it, his deep ball, right? His accuracy. I think he's threw 66% at Tennessee. His touchdown.
50 touchdowns, 5 interceptions.
There you go. Touchdown to interception ratio, extremely important. He's going to have time to learn from Jared, time to learn from Mark Brunell. He's under a rookie deal for 4 years. So if you take all those things and put them together, there's a lot of value in that pick, despite him being 25 years old. Look at what he's accomplished statistically in last year at Tennessee.
Can you give me the best case scenario for a guy like Hendon Hooker?
You talking about a player comparison or just what he can do?
Player comparison, but even just level of play in the NFL.
I think he could be, at least right now.
Can he ever be a top 5 quarterback in the NFL? Given what you see now?
That's tough because he is, again, a lot of those guys we talk about that could be top 5 quarterbacks, they show a lot at 21, 22. So he's 25. He's a lot more polished. Top 5 might be a little bit of a stretch. Right now, I don't think
top
that's...
Top 10 quarterback?
Yes. Jared's top
fair.
10, top 12.
So that's... I'm just going to use it because to me it's the easiest one to do. And I think it's the easiest I can explain this, which is if Hendon Hooker ends up being the exact split copy of Jared Goff, just a little bit more mobile, I think that is a A+++ pick. I do. I don't need Hendon Hooker to be top 5 good. If he is, fuck.
Got him in the 3rd round.
Here we go. Let's go, baby. We're cooking. But if he's not and he's just an average or above average quarterback, that's still a very good pick considering I got him in the 3rd round.
Right.
So I'm not going to sit here and say Hendon Hooker has any pressure on him. He doesn't. I want him to get healthy. I want him to sit a year and learn. And when called upon, I expect him to play good football. And look, it's going to put pressure on Goff and his agent and the Lions. Are they going to work out a deal? Are they going to extend him? I think it all comes down to how he plays this year. He goes out and throws another 4,300 yards. He goes out and throws 27, 28 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. He has an efficient season. The Lions win the division. They win a playoff game. I find it hard to believe they don't extend him for another 2 years.
Yeah. And again, we just had, there's rumors circulating just a week or two ago. Remember the Teddy Bridgewater rumors about the Lions offering Teddy a contract?
Oh, yeah, I know the people that wanted him.
So think about
this. Like Malik Willis.
Think about this for a second. Instead of paying Teddy Bridgewater $6 million, $7 million to be your backup, you got Hendon Hooker on a 4-year rookie contract at 25 years old to be your backup or your third stringer right now. To me, that's value. Like I would much rather have Hendon Hooker in the 3rd round with that contract, with that upside, than spending all the money or some money on a backup quarterback, which probably most likely will never see the field this year. So I love it.
I'm going to disagree with some of the people in the chat. I'll start with people pleaser. Goff is going to regress. Teams will have tape, and he isn't going to get so lucky this year on the defensive drops. Okay, look, I will agree with you. I think Goff early on in the year, happy feet, panic throws, probably should have thrown 3 or 4 more interceptions over the course of the year. I'll give you that. Okay? But the 8-2 Jared Goff down the stretch, who threw 18 touchdowns and 1 interception, was locked in. The offense was clicking. The defense was better. I'm not sitting here saying Jared Goff is the future of the NFL. He's not. He just isn't. But you can't tell me I can't win with Jared Goff. I've seen head coaches win with more guys like Jared Goff than guys like Mahomes and Brady. Those are the anomalies. Those are the top 5, top 10 guys. Would love to have them. They don't always come around. I don't always have them on my team. I've seen Stafford here for 12 years, couldn't win shit. There's more to this game. To me, if Jared Goff regresses, it is on his end. I don't think it's because defenses change anything or that the offense isn't doing well enough. The only way Jared Goff is essentially not a Detroit Lion in the future is if he plays his way out as one. Fair?
Fair.
Hendon Hooker, I got no problem with it. Insurance policy, a really cheap one with high upside. If Hendon Hooker ends up being any bit as good as Jared Goff, I think it's an A+ draft pick.
And again, let's not, let's just bring up the obvious here. Just competition behind Goff is significant because the last 2 years they didn't have it. I mean, Brad brought it up. They wanted to address the backup quarterback position earlier last year, but they didn't do it. They had Nate Sudfeld, and Nate Sudfeld is, he's okay. He didn't start anything yet. So, again, Nate Sudfeld's just there. He's a body in the quarterback room. He assists Jared Goff. He's respected, but still. Nate Sudfeld isn't a true backup. You got to address it. They did it this year. With contract negotiations coming up for Jared Goff, just to have Hendon Hooker behind him, I love it, absolutely. And to bring up the point about Jared Goff this year, if Jared Goff struggles this year, it's going to be because of Jared Goff. Like Ben Johnson, last year Jared Goff played at a high level. His first year with Ben Johnson, him and Ben being on the same page, Ben implementing things that Jared is comfortable with. That was his first year in that offense, Adam. So now you're going into a second year. You're more comfortable, more weapons, like now more experience. Kind of him and Ben have better chemistry. If he struggles, I got nothing for Jared. It would be because of Jared. And again, just to have Hendon there as an insurance policy, it's a great thing.
All right. Let's take a break. When we get back, I want to go to the biggest winners, biggest losers across the NFL. How about the Niners taking Moody in the 3rd round? That was fun to see.
The Patriots taking a kicker and a punter in rounds like 3 and 4, I think it was. Or 4 and 5,
Gotta love Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
He's doing his best to give the FU
positional value
to Robert Kraft at this point. Let's take a break. When we get back, draft talk, biggest winners, losers. But before we go, I got to tell you about my good friends over at Planet Fitness. Sign up today. $10 a month is all it takes, guys. Go to planetfitness.com or visit one of their many Metro Detroit locations. Your fitness is essential. Check them out, planetfitness.com.
At work and at home, we're there with smarter security solutions. Featuring complete automation with customized alerts and more. For over 90 years, we've been the company that's been counted on to protect what matters most, all with personalized service and care. Right now, for a limited time, receive a free video device plus free installation with a new home system. Guardian Alarm. We protect Michigan.
We don't like to brag that we are the toughest sports network in Detroit.
But we do have a guy named Darren McCarty on our side.
Lemieux and McCarty, who've had a good knockdown drag out. There they go, right on the whistle. They were talking to one another.
Woodward Sports.
All right, we're back here on the Morning Woodward Show live. WoodwardSports.com. As always, Adham, Beydoun, Jeff, Iafrate. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and of course, if you miss the show live, you can always go back after the fact, download the podcast. Jeff, here's where we're at. Biggest winners, biggest losers. I'll start with the obvious one, just so we can agree on one. The Texans. It must be nice to be a Houston Texan fan. C.J. Stroud, Will Anderson, arguably two of the five best players in the draft. Unbelievable haul for the Houston Texans. I think their fans are on cloud nine at the moment. Then they went back in the second round and they drafted Juice Struggs. Hell of a job. They did a hell of a job. But give me your first biggest winner of the draft, Jeff.
So for me, I got to go with the Philadelphia Eagles. Not only what they've done in the first round, both picks. I mean, Jalen Carter at 9. I mean, you know how I love Jalen Carter. You got Nolan Smith. Just look at the value. Jalen Carter, arguably the best player in the draft, just on the field. I get the off-the-field stuff. You get him at 9, and they trade up to do it one spot. You get Nolan Smith at 30, who was projected. I mean, a lot of people had him mocked. I've seen him as high as 10. I've seen him mocked the Lions at 18. You get him at 30. And look at what they did later in the draft as well. Sidney Brown, the safety out of Illinois, who was really productive, somebody that I had in a couple of my mock drafts. They got him at 66. They got Keely Ringo at 105. And again, Keely Ringo, I mean, he has his knocks, but 105 in the 4th round. You get Keely Ringo, who last year, this is why I love before the college football season mocks, he was a top 10 pick, and then he played.
And they got Eli Ricks as an undrafted
And they got Eli Ricks as an undrafted free agent. They got Tanner McKee at 188 as a backup quarterback. I think the Philadelphia Eagles, and this isn't a shock, they do this every single year, they had another good draft. So shout out to Howie Roseman.
Look at their board. And it's not a shot at the Lions. They got the players they wanted. Good for them. It's on them to make it work. Go back and open up Philly's draft board. Edge, defensive tackle, offensive lineman, defensive lineman.
That's Howie Roseman's philosophy.
Secondary play.
Take trench players in the first round. He does that every year. No matter how much talent they have, they just keep taking tackles in defensive line.
You can never have enough fat people on your team.
That's a good way to
look at it. And I mean that in the nicest way possible.
Yeah.
They are so important to any football team. It's just the truth. I'll tell you a team that won the draft and didn't do much. Arizona. How much draft capital did they walk away with for a new GM, a new head coach, while still getting the offensive lineman Paris Johnson Jr. that they wanted in the first round at 6th overall? I think Arizona did very good. And if I'm honest with you, how cool was it to see Paris Johnson Jr. and Joey Porter Jr. get drafted by the former teams that their fathers played for? That was a touchy moment. That was pretty cool. Give me another team that won the draft in your opinion.
I think another team that had a great draft. I would even bring up
the Niners for drafting Moody.
Well,
come on, A++, baby.
I think alone for that, the Niners won the draft. There was a couple teams, especially. I mean, even the teams that didn't have a ton of draft picks. Like I like what the Dolphins did, especially. I think even in their 4 selections, they got great value. But another team I'd have to bring up that, to be honest with you, they had a pretty good draft, and I can't believe I'm saying this. I kind of liked what the Raiders did with at least their first couple picks. Tyree Wilson, Michael Mayer, you got Ja'Cory Bennett at 104, Aiden O'Connell, you addressed the backup quarterback. I like what the Raiders did. I think another team that I want to bring up that I'm going to be honest, I didn't love what they did, and it's kind of good. I didn't love what they did because you're going to be facing them twice a year as the Green Bay Packers.
Really?
Yeah, and again, I get the positional value. You get Lucas Van Ness and Edge in the first round. They go back-to-back tight ends. Like, I just think they should have addressed wide receiver a little bit earlier, but they ended up taking one anyway, so we'll live with it.
Well, I think JSN getting picked kind of ruined everything.
Might have screwed, and that could have screwed everything up. I mean, who knows? But again, didn't love what the Green Bay Packers did, but I can understand it. They took Lucas Van Ness, and I think he'll be a pretty good player in the first round.
All right. Let's go through some losers. Teams that you thought totally botched the draft or maybe put in an underwhelming shift.
Yeah. You said, what was that?
A bust. You don't even have the biggest loser.
Okay.
But, teams that they should have done better given what they had.
I think there's a lot of teams you could bring up, and I'm going to be honest with you. I think you could probably
Packers.
Yeah, but
start with the Packers.
Let's be honest. If we're talking about reaches, like I guess risk involved, it's got to bring up the Lions as well. Like I think there's a lot of risk in what the Lions are doing. Yeah, because I can argue, I can make sense of the picks, but I can't just sit up here and tell you that if Jahmyr Gibbs doesn't work out.
don't want to give away the grades now, but we're going to give our grades coming up in, 15, not even 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So.
And another team I didn't love what they did also is the Buffalo Bills. And this is the problem.
They walked away with what? Torrance and Kincaid?
Torrance I love. And again, Dorian Williams at 91. Kincaid I like, but for him to be the first tight end drafted at 25, he's the only tight end in the first round. I hope Kincaid, next to Dawson Knox, could be elite. But you already have Dawson Knox. Why are you taking Dalton Kincaid at 25?
Before I give away losers.
I don't understand it.
Before I give away losers, and I think I have to do this, I think there are two teams that need to be acknowledged this morning that just totally gave the three, actually. Three that two of them showed their permanent class that they've always have, and one that has just recently been dominating the draft. The Seattle Seahawks had a hell of a draft. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, they did. No doubt they nailed it.
Pittsburgh Steelers always have an excellent draft. And the Baltimore Ravens, I mean, they signed Lamar. They got him a receiver, Odell Beckham.
Trenton Simpson.
Trade up. They drafted another wide receiver. They found a way to walk away really happy in the draft. But when you talk about losers, I mean, I think the Indianapolis Colts just. Good luck.
Good
luck.
And
That's
again,
all I'm going to say, Indianapolis. Good luck. You're not in my division. You're not in my conference. I could care less. Best of luck to you. Best of luck to the Tennessee Titans that I think made a major mistake in the second round. I don't care about, quote, the value of taking Will Levis in the second round because he was a projected. I don't care. You took banana-eating, mayo-dipping boy to be your future quarterback.
But
I like the Skoronski pick.
Yeah.
But Will Levis, I mean, poor. It's all the GM's fault from the prior existence, the one who traded A.J. Brown. Tennessee were rolling. Mike Vrabel, it was all clicking. The defense was working. The offense was getting better. And then they let go of A.J. Brown. It's all downhill. Tennessee's dead.
Dead. Another team I want to bring up, too, that I think had a sneaky good draft is the Bengals. You got Miles Murphy at 28, DJ Turner at 60, Jordan Battle at 95, Charlie Jones at 133, Chase Brown, Andre. You got a lot of value here. Even late in the draft, DJ Ivey at 246. I love what the Bengals did. Again, you address the edge position. You got DJ Turner, who I like a lot from Michigan. Jordan Battle, I mean, one of the better safeties in the draft that I had mocked a couple times of the Lions. Charlie Jones, if you watch Big Ten football, you know Charlie Jones, especially if you're a Michigan fan, you know who Charlie Jones is. And then Chase Brown, again, if you're a Big Ten fan, you know who Chase Brown is. I think the Bengals had a great draft as well, addressing the wide receiver position with T. Higgins' future a little up in the air. I love it. That's another team I think doesn't get enough credit.
Had an underwhelming draft as well.
Yeah.
Washington. I know they took your boy Forbes, but it was
besides that they
followed up with pretty underwhelming. I don't think Washington will look back and say, man, we crushed this draft. When you're a team like Washington, when you're any of these teams, middle of the pack, just short of average, you need to hit on the third, fourth, fifth round guys. Second round, you need to. It's not just getting the first round guy. Good for you on Mosley, Emmanuel Forbes, but meh draft for Washington. I think Tampa had an interesting draft. I'm not going to say I love it, but they got some big boys. They also took Kancey in the first round. Tampa Bay had a good draft. But overall, I think most teams walked away with what they wanted. The Niners
got who they wanted.
They got their kicker. That's maybe all they need to win the Super Bowl. Who knows? Cincinnati, excuse me. Niners are just that damn good.
And if you're the 49ers and you have really no weakness and you need a kicker, if you draft Jake Moody, who's played in big-time games, he was widely regarded as the best kicker in college football. You draft him in the third round, you get him for 15 years.
Yep.
To me, it's worth it. I mean, for the 49ers, they don't need anything. You're okay. You could take a kicker.
Colts better keep the roof closed. AR-15 might throw a pass to the moon. Yeah, look, you know what? I'm going to make the case for Anthony Richardson even if I don't like him. Not as a person, obviously, but just as a football player. The only way I see this working is if Steichen really limits how much he throws year one. He's probably a 58, 57% completion percentage rookie, would be my guess.
Yeah.
And if somehow they can grow him enough to where in year two he takes that Jalen Hurts step and he's 62, 63%, I think then people are going to look at that pick and say, oh, Indy might have something here, but it's going to rely a lot on how many interceptions does he throw year one. It's probably going to be upwards of 14, 15 if he's a day one starter, maybe even more than that. The completion percentage isn't going to be pretty. How often are you going to give the ball to Jonathan Taylor? Him struggling with injuries down the stretch doesn't help anybody. We'll see. I'm nervous for Indianapolis.
If there's a spot for Anthony Richardson, I would argue that Indianapolis is the best spot because you got Shane Steichen, who just showed he can work with Jalen Hurts. You saw his development. So Shane Steichen, now bigger, I guess you could say better arm. I mean, Jalen's more accurate at this point, but stronger arm I'd give to Anthony Richardson. A lot of potential there. My question is, do you start him year one and risk him losing confidence, or do you just start Nick Foles and have him kind of be groomed into year two?
I would love to see them sit him 4, 5, 6, 7 games. And once the season is established, hey, we're not a good team, you throw him in there for the final 8, 9, 10 games.
Right.
Similar to Hurts, you let him play at least 10 games this year. I think you have to. You don't take a quarterback at 4 and you sit him. It's one of my biggest frustrations. Projects now are working more than ever at the quarterback position.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, some of them have sat, but you look at Lamar, sat only a portion of the games. Josh Allen sat a little bit, Hurts a little bit, Mahomes a full season. So they sit for a bit.
Right.
Mahomes a full season, but everybody else, they sit them 4, 5, 6 games, let them get their feet wet, bring them into a game in the fourth quarter where you lose them by 3, 4 touchdowns, maybe let them throw the ball around. And then you start him in week 10, week 11, and you let him ride out the rest of the year.
Because that's the problem with Anthony Richardson is the biggest argument is people are saying he should have went back. He doesn't have enough experience. So for him to sit, it's like you want him to get experience, but you also don't want him to lose confidence. I mean, he's got Jonathan Taylor, and we know a quarterback's best friend is a run game.
Yep.
You got to arguably the best running back in the game behind you. So I think it's a great situation for him. They just got to get him more weapons. That's all.
Right, let's hand. Excuse me. Wow. Let's hand out our Detroit Lions draft grades. Coming up next, JB, I would love to hear yours as well, whether you give them an A or an F. I'm not sure where you're at this morning. We'll do that next, but before we go, I'll tell you about my good friends over at Cousins Maine Lobster. Find them today. Scan the QR code you see on the screen, or check them out at cousinsmainelobster.com. Lobster, guys, I'm always saying the same thing because it's what I eat. Lobster tacos, clam chowder soup, side of tots. You can't go wrong. Thank me later. Treat yourself on a Monday morning after the Lions had themselves a pretty good draft. We'll see you next. We'll give out our draft grades.
Big Boy Strawberry Fest has officially arrived, and we're here to show you the very best flavors of the season. Satisfy your sweet tooth with our deep-fried vanilla Oreos, strawberry hot fudge cake, and a slice of our classic strawberry pie. But that's not all. Cool off on a refreshing summer splash salad, or savor the flavors of our chicken Caesar wrap and strawberry bacon chicken wrap. And for breakfast lovers, don't miss out on our strawberry hotcakes or our mouth-watering red velvet waffle. Strawberry Fest is something for everyone. Celebrate the sweet season with us at Big Boy.
My name is Lee. I've lost 35 pounds on the Custom Health Center program. So the 3 biggest benefits that I've gotten from this program has been I'm not snoring anymore, I have a lot of energy, it's great, and oh, by the way, look at this. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding.
Call us at 844-789-THIN or visit CustomHealthCenters.com for a free consultation and get started for as little as $5 a day.
The only sports network in Detroit that starts with a W. You know, because we win.
Woodward Sports.
Detroit's winning sports network.
All right, we're back here on the Morning Woodward Show live. WoodwardSports.com. As always, Adham, Beydoun, Jeff, Iafrate. Thank you to everybody joining us. Here's what we're going to do. All right, Lions draft grade reports. Jeff, I want to start with you. You were a little hesitant in the segment before about whether or not you can call the Lions winners or not. So I'm curious, what are you giving them this morning? You have all 3 days now, full picture.
So you're talking everything.
Full
all
scope,
8 players.
Undrafted free agency, through the draft, what you like, what you don't like. Walk me through it. The picks you're really sold on, the ones you're not. I know you love the Brian Branch pick. Most people do.
Yeah.
Where's Jeff at? What's the grade?
I would probably give him a B at this point, B minus. Depending on how you want to look at it. For me, I factor in a lot of things. A big reason why I gave them a B is they found players that are going to be able to make an impact day one. That's what matters. Like, again, should they have taken Jalen Carter? Should they have done this? All that is great. And it's something that I feel like, okay, maybe looking back on in a year, we could have that thought process of, dang, Jahmyr Gibbs is hurt, or God forbid, or Jack Campbell didn't pan out. But as of right now, we know nothing about these players. based on they got guys that'll play, they improved positions that needed to improve, and they got guys that fell to them, especially Brian Branch and Hendon Hooker, that have great value. So if you're factoring guys that are some of the best of their position, Jameer, number 2 running back, some had him as the best, Jack Campbell, the best linebacker, Sam Laporta, he's one of the best tight ends in the draft. I mean, you had Brian Branch, the best safety, Hendon Hooker, a top 3, top 4 quarterback. Like, if you look at just value pick by pick, I think he did a fantastic job. So I think throughout the whole draft, I'd give him a B at this point. And then depending on how these players pan out, the grade could increase or could decrease. But right now, knowing nothing about how these guys are going to play, I'll give them a B based on what they did in the draft.
Okay. I want to bring up some bad memories.
Oh, gosh.
I do.
All right.
I think it's important. Do you guys remember when the Lions were 1-6, what the conversations we were having were? Obviously, I was very frustrated with Dan Campbell, ready to throw him out of the building. And then I was told by not all of you, I don't want to call anybody out in the chat, but let's just say 30-40% of the fan base, based on my Twitter and chat interactions. I think that's a fair number, maybe even more. A lot of you were saying, whoa, Brad Holmes hasn't done anything to equip this roster correctly. Look at the roster. Look what Dan's working with. And then 2-3 weeks go by, and Dan's actually coaching a lot better, making less mistakes. They fire, who was the secondary coach? I forget his name.
Aubrey
Pleasant.
Yep.
And the team goes on this 8-2 run, and you're like, man, team looks really good. A lot of talented players. It all changes by winning. And why I'm bringing that up is the grade I give this right now, or you, doesn't matter if they're winning. Does that make sense? If the players perform, then a pre-draft, post-draft grade doesn't really fucking matter, right? It really doesn't. So you want my initial thoughts, my initial grade? I'm going to agree with you. After day 2, I had it upwards of a B+. The Broderick Martin thing was interesting. A guy that doesn't get invited to the combine. They trade a 4th and a 5th to move up. It was odd, but they did it. Overall, I'm going to give him a B. I think it's hard for me to look past pick number 12. Again, I think Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be a very good football player. I do. I think he's going to have high impact day 1. You don't draft running backs in the first round. It just doesn't work. But again, if he's a hybrid, if he's a wide receiver more than a back, if he's a Deebo Samuel mixed with Alvin Kamara, sign me the hell up. You can justify that pick with that type of player. But again, look at the data. Data isn't the best. I only know what I know now. I don't know if Gibbs is going to be a 1,000-yard receiver, 700-yard receiver. I don't know any of that. I think he's going to be productive. I think he's going to score a lot of times. But right now, post-draft, the running back pick was questionable. I really like the Campbell pick. I like the Laporta pick. Love the Branch pick. Love the Hooker pick. There's a lot of love in this one, right? There's a lot of good value picks. So I think overall a B is fair. I think his draft can be as bad as a C, and I think as good as an A+ because of the potential some of these players have. You have a Hendon Hooker who has high upside. Brian Branch, 2nd round, high upside. A tight end and a running back that if they both account for 500 yards each receiving year 1.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this is an A+ draft day 1. It's an A+ draft. If they both catch over 500 yards, it's an A+ draft. So I think it's a draft that has a lot of upside, but I'm going to agree with you. It's a B.
Yeah, because
it's a B, and I'd love to see what all of you think of the chat.
And that's what I hate grading this early because you don't know. I mean, last year, if you graded the draft before, we would have loved picks like Kirby Joseph, Malcolm Rodriguez.
Well, I mean, last year we both gave it an A+, so.
No, but even then, like Malcolm, we didn't know these guys would work out initially. So
well, we gave him an A+ for Hutch.
Of course.
Hutch, J-Mo, Pascal, and Kirby.
And
we love the pick.
And I love some of what they did early on. I know, Jahmyr, you have questions, but for the most part, they got players that are some of the best at their position. So I love it, but we don't know about trading up for Broderick Martin. I don't know what his ceiling looks like. You got to wait for these guys to kind of play and to see what you have in them. Because when you see James Houston last year, when you saw Malcolm Rodriguez last year, now that grade goes up. Now we're like, okay, you found 2 more starters on your defense. We don't know what Broderick Martin is. We don't know what Colby Sorsdahl is. We don't know what Antoine Green is. If these guys pan out even more and they play and they make an impact year 1, of course the draft grade is going to increase. So I hate doing it, but as of right now, yes. I think before the season, I got to give them a B. I think they did great. You could argue positional value, but they got who they wanted. They got some of the best at their own positions, and who they drafted, I think they did well.
Can we agree on 3 things?
Yes.
Are they a better football team after the draft?
Yes, absolutely.
Did they add day one starters at 4 very important positions that they have lacked production at overall?
Mm-hmm.
Running back, tight end, linebacker, safety. A secondary, I guess you can call it Brian Branch if you don't want to label him as safety. And then the third thing I would say is, are you more confident now in the Lions to go out and deliver on expectations than you were prior to the draft?
Yes.
And I think the grades don't matter. And, it's a sports talk show. We're going to do the grades. We're going to do the what-ifs. We're going to do all that. But to me, those are the important questions. And I'm walking away like you. I'm answering yes to all of them, and I'm feeling really confident. JB, give me a grade. What do you think this morning?
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. I give it a B. I give it a very solid B on that one as well. I just think you're satisfied, but you're not over the moon happy with all the picks, just because they weren't what you thought they would be, or thought we
in the given order.
In the given order, and also just given who else was out there on the board as well too. Sam Laporta, I just don't get that one, especially when you had Michael Mayer and I believe Luke Musgrave still out there on the board as well too, which is 2 options that I thought could have been that pick, but I guess not. But still, quality picks in Hendon Hooker, Branch, Gibbs. You just gotta figure out and see what you get out of him day one out there.
Let me ask you this: Hendon Hooker.
Yep.
Worst case scenario, best case scenario. What do you think of this guy as a player?
Best case scenario, he becomes your franchise quarterback after you get rid of Goff, after his days here in Detroit are done. Worst case scenario, he's just a third-string mid backup that you see in the preseason here and there. And that's it.
Man, so you're in the franchise quarterback camp. You think they drafted him?
Yeah, and as you were saying earlier, too, there's a lot of people out here that are 50-50 on the whole situation just because of his age and also the injury as well, too. You don't expect a QB to just bounce back like that and be an elite superstar. So, of course, you're going to get people skeptical about it. But, hey, Brad Holmes we trust. And as he said in his press conference, they're not drafting scared out there. When you fall in love with a player like they have, and which they have selected as well, too, all these picks, it's not a reach. So.
After seeing the results of the first round, we have a question from Polska. Would you have rather traded our 2 first-round picks to get Will Anderson at 3? I'm going to say no. I never valued trading up 3 spots enough to give up my 2 first-round picks. Now, had Detroit given up 6, 55, and a future 3 or 2 3s, I'd be open to that.
Right.
But I was never on board with the haul that Houston was willing to give up, which, by the way, Houston gave up next year's first-round pick.
Yeah,
that could be a top 5
Arizona
pick
owns
for
it.
Arizona.
Yeah.
So, no, given what Houston paid, absolutely not. I'm happy with the trade back. Live time, I tweeted, I absolutely fucking loved it.
Mm-hmm.
Who they took shocked the living hell out of me at 12, 18. I didn't mind at all. I liked it, actually. But, look, we're always going to have this conversation after the NFL draft. Did they address the interior line, a line that you could argue was the weakness of this defense last year? Maybe they didn't. No, they didn't. Broderick Martin, it is what it is. I'm not going to consider that guy as a bona fide starter.
Yeah.
That is, maybe he contributes year one in a positive way, maybe. I'm not putting much stock into him. They're not a perfect football team, and this is why I say San Francisco and the Eagles are still a year ahead. Look what Philly did. Interior defensive linemen, offensive linemen, safety, secondary players. It doesn't matter. They stick to what works and what they know what works. Mm-hmm. The Lions, I love what they're building. I really do. But you really, and I don't care that the Patriots or that the Raiders or the whoever the fuck it was, I don't care that teams wanted Jahmyr Gibbs. You decided to make that pick? Cool. Your job on the line, not mine. I'm paid to talk about it. You're paid to make the decisions. Jahmyr Gibbs, no problem. You drafted him. But go look at the 5, 6, 7 teams that are legitimate contenders, and they all focused on the defensive line, the offensive line, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that's why I can't give this draft an A, even if I trust Brad Holmes. It's nothing to do with trusting the guy. Elite level talent evaluator. Unbelievable. I think Gibbs and Laporte are going to shock people year one. It wouldn't surprise me at all. But that's why I think they're still 1 year away from being a legitimate get to an NFC championship game, and you really think they can win it, because I still think they need a ton of defensive line help.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are too bullish on James Houston. I think there's way too much optimism involved there. I know he was an absolute beast, but can I get a full season sample instead of anointing him as someone that's just as good as Aiden Hutchinson, which is not even close to being true? So I'd like to see Houston play, perform. You still have Isaiah Buggs. John Kaminsky was very, very valuable on the defensive line, but you win the game in the trenches, man. And I hope that doesn't come back to bite them.
And you can't fix all your holes in one offseason. We know this. And as much as we prefer them to address the defensive line earlier, they still got guys that are coming back. Josh Pascal, much healthier. Levi Ozarike will be returning. They still have guys.
I mean,
so,
Levi Ozarike, like that means anything.
But I'm not saying that these guys are going to be elite. But what I'm saying is if Brad didn't address it earlier, clearly there's some faith in who they have already.
Look, you got Pascal returning. There's going to a lot of rotational guys.
Right. And Pascal,
the only elite pass rusher I have right now is the guy who took second overall last year.
Right. Yeah, I agree
James
with that.
Houston, again, a phenomenal performance down the stretch. Unbelievable. Can I get more of a sample size? I'm not sure if it was lightning in a bottle or if they just stole a top 15 edge rusher in the next few years. I don't know yet. So I'd just like to see it. I'd like to see it.
Yeah, and even last year with the return of Romeo Okwara, they had Julian Okwara. Like, they got a lot of depth there. Now, they got to address it. Maybe they'll do it with via trade, next draft, who knows. But if Brad really if he needed a defensive tackle that bad, I think he would have took one. But again, there was just higher players on his draft board at the time.
Look at John Hargraves on the interior. You look at a Jeffrey Simmons.
A lot of value with
Chris
guys
Jones.
who can create a pass
rush. You just need guys that smash mouth football, man. And the teams that are winning at the highest level are doubling down on those positions.
And maybe at that point, I mean, Jalen Carter, maybe he was like out on Jalen. Okay, who's next? Mozzie Smith. He went at 26 to Dallas. Maybe after that, the drop off with defensive tackles. Maybe his eyes went to Broderick Martin. I mean, as much as we wanted Brad to take one earlier, you got to trust Brad's draft board, because that draft board over the last 2 seasons has gotten you 2 pretty good drafts. So we got to wait and see how these players work out until you give them a grade, really.
All right, here's what we're going to do. We'll take a break. When we get back, we'll wrap up with Lions draft talk. Then we'll get to Mailbag. We'll answer all of your questions coming up next. But before we go, Jeff, our good friends over at the Sports Marketing Agency.
The Sports Marketing Agency helps spread awareness about mental health and substance abuse. Their new podcast, This is the S Word, helps fight the stigma about seeking help. If you or someone you know is struggling, head to thesportsma.com for more information.
Love Woodward Sports? Love wearing clothes? Then you should be wearing Woodward Sports clothes. Check out our full line of merch at woodwardsports.com. Just click on Shop. We have all your favorite designs, like Dan Campbell kneecaps, Beverly Hills Golf, Woodward Golf, and of course, our own logoed out merchandise. Men, women, infants, kids all love Woodward Sports. Impress your friends. Impress your boss. Impress your dog.
Buy Woodward Sports merch today.
Introducing the Planet Fitness Guide to getting that post-workout glow. Step 1. What's your why? More epic energy? Better sleep? Blow off steam? Step 2. Join Planet Fitness for just $10 a month and get moving in our clean and spacious clubs. Step 3. Bask in that post-workout glow. Join Planet Fitness today for just $10 a month.
Join today at any of the 50-plus Detroit area locations.
Have an opinion? Make sure it's seen and heard.
Corner, jumper,
Tweet us, hop on the YouTube chat, slide in the DMS at Woodward Sports on all social media.
Let me tell you about our friends over at Fowling Warehouse. Fowling Warehouse in Hamtramck is the home of the original football bowling game. 2 to play for $12, the unlimited open play, or you can pay $120 for a lane reservation for up to 10 people. $2 mystery beer machine, full bar. Check it all out, fowlingwarehouse.com.
All right, we're back here on the Morning Woodward Show live, woodwardsports.com. Thank you to everybody joining us this morning. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. All right, Jeff, I want to wrap up with some Lions draft talk, and then we'll move on to Mailbag. We'll get everybody's questions. I'd love to still see all of your grades. Feel free while we continue the conversation to drop your final draft grade reports. Jeff and I will get to those in Mailbag. So here's where I'm at. Final takeaways from the NFL draft. I'm surprised. I'm still a bit shocked. I like the players. I just, again,
a little bit skeptical.
Call me a pessimist. Call me what you want.
It's okay.
I've seen for the last 10 years how and I'm not talking about winning a Super Bowl. Forget that. I'm just talking get me to an NFC championship game. Damn it, win some division titles in a 3-4 year span. Divisions, meaning multiple. You build a defensive line that is absolutely one of the best in the league. You have a really good coach. Great quarterback or average, it doesn't really matter. It depends on the coach. A good secondary. Elite weapons. Like the Lions last year followed that blueprint, which was why we loved it so much. Edge rusher, wide receiver, edge rusher. It was so Philadelphia, San Francisco, Kansas City-esque. It was like, damn, we're one of the big boys now, right? And then this year, they went out of the box, and they shocked people. And it was Jahmyr Gibbs, a running back. It was Jack Campbell, which I actually agree with, at 18. It was Sam Laporta at 34. And if I believe the number is correct, in the last 10, 15 years, only 4 teams or 4 players at the tight end position have been selected in the top 35. 3 of them have been drafted by the Lions. Ebron, Hawkinson, and now Laporta. So I look at how teams are winning. That's not what Brad Holmes did in this draft. But if I'm honest and I look at the football team, they needed a Jahmyr Gibbs. DeAndre Swift is unreliable. They do need a tight end. It's nice to have Brock Wright, Zylstra, Mitchell. You hope James Mitchell's going to be something, but that's just hope. That's nothing concrete. Look, Alex Anzalone and Rodrigo, I know you guys love the guys, but, I mean, Jack Campbell's going to be better than both of them day one. And he's a much better pass cover linebacker than both of them combined. So I can look at the Lions and what they did and say, they got better, and they did address the needs they also had. It's just as disappointing to say, never got a defensive tackle, and you took a running back in the first round. It's unconventional. It just is. It doesn't mean the player's not good. It doesn't mean Brad Holmes should lose his job. It doesn't mean any of that bullshit. That's just all people who love to overreact. What I'm telling you this morning is I look at how teams are winning. At pick 12, the Lions did what the teams that are winning don't do. Okay? I kept hearing about how Philly wanted to trade up for Beydoun. They didn't. They wanted to move up for Carter. It was worth it enough for them to move one spot to ensure that the Bears wouldn't take him or that nobody would trade with the Bears. The Bears got their offensive lineman that they wanted. Again, I hope I'm wrong. I'm just looking at teams that are winning, and they're focusing on the defensive line. The Lions stuck to free agency, re-signing players, and I wish them the best. It's tough for me to walk away and say A++ when they did the one thing you should do, but again, I can justify, or not justify, but I can at least understand why they took Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm not irate. I'm not saying Brad Holmes out or the front office is stupid. I'm not doing that. But I am questioning it. Of course, who wouldn't? It's a first-round running back. When has that worked out in our lifetimes? This isn't 1990, where you get to the divisional round just with having a top 5 running back. Barry Sanders won you multiple division titles, won you a playoff game, got you to an NFC championship game. It's not like that anymore. So it is what it is. It is what it is.
Yeah, that's why it's so important now, even with these way too early grades. I mean, trying to see what Brad's philosophy is drafting, and I think we're figuring it out now with how he views positional value, how he views drafting a tight end, like you said, at 34, or drafting a running back at 12. Like, if you respected and trusted Brad before this draft,
and I still do,
There you go.
I think still do.
And that's the big thing. I know you do, but for people
that doesn't affect my confidence.
Exactly.
And if I were to tell everybody at home watching, it should not affect your confidence. I'm not saying the Gibbs pick means Brad Holmes is a nutcase. No, none of that. Exceptional GM. One of the 10 best in the league, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think most would agree with that. It's just an unconventional thing, and the only way the unconventional thing works is if this guy is a hybrid of Kamara and Deebo Samuel. And if he is anything like that, I think we're going to look back at this draft, even if Beydoun is really good, and I think teams are going to say, that might be where we need to go in the league. If we're going to take a running back, maybe let's identify a guy who's an elite pass catcher that we can use in the slot, that we can use out of the backfield, that we can line up on the far side of the field as a mismatch just to take away maybe the team's number one corner. He's always on the left side. Let me just throw my running back there, and then I'll load up the right side with all my receivers. Then I'll make the defense adjust. I can understand it. I would just love to see it work. That's all.
Yeah, and that's the thing, too, with Gibbs is labeling him a traditional running back. And that's why I love about Brad and how he looks at players is they're just football players. Like Branch, he didn't bring up the best safety. He just said he's a football player. Jack Campbell, football player. Even when they asked, I forgot who the reporter was, but they asked him, typically inside linebackers don't go, in the first round, whatever it is. He's like, I look at Jack as a football player, and that's what he's labeling these guys as. So for Jahmyr Gibbs, I love that he doesn't put everybody in a box. We'll see how it pans out. I mean, we got to see if Jahmyr Gibbs is that guy. It is unconventional, but if it pans out, damn, you're going to have some real...
A lot of teams looking at Brad Holmes like, hey, you know what, maybe we have to look at that. And that's the thing, though.
Right.
The way Kansas City got Mahomes, Allen to the Bills. Teams set these trends. Are the Lions about to set a new trend? Are the Lions about to say, hey, the guys like Deebo are not going to be second-round picks anymore. We're now going to value them as first-round picks. Maybe. We'll get to Mailbag next. But before we go, I got to tell you about my good friends over at Lady Jane's Haircuts for Men. Walk in any Lady Jane's for an award-winning haircut and for your chance to win not one but two cars of your choice, courtesy of Les Stanford Chevrolet, for Buick GMC of Ferndale. That's right, two cars, one for you and one for your wife, girlfriend, mistress, best bud, whatever it is, doesn't matter. We'll be right back with Mailbag. Lady Jane's, it's wicked awesome.
Hey, it's Sean Jordan from the Sports Marketing Agency, and SMA wouldn't be who we are without our amazing partners.
Thank you so much, Sean. At Detroit Wayne, we want to serve as a resource for you and your families. We offer mental health services, substance use disorder services throughout our communities, and we want to be that source and resource within the community.
If you or a loved one are suffering from a mental health or substance abuse issue, please don't hesitate to call 1-800-241-4949.
Since the dawn of moving people, Chevrolet has led the way. The world of transportation is changing. At Feldman Chevrolet, we are leading the charge forward. With every electric vehicle, every mile traveled, one Feldman at a time. The company that puts more Chevys on Michigan roads is now the #1 name for Chevy electric vehicles.
Woodward Avenue, the first paved road in America. Woodward Sports, the first sports network born in Detroit and made for Detroit.
All right, we're back for Mailbag time. Adam Beydoun, Jeff Iafrate, the Morning Woodward Show. Jeff, let's start with this question. Jeff, Steph beats LeBron. Is he better?
Don't even do it. Don't even do it. Don't even do it.
I mean, let's say Steph beats LeBron on his way to his 5th ring, and then he would have more rings than LeBron. What would you have to say to that? And then he would be 5-2. No, is it 5-2? Yeah, he'd be 5-2 in the NBA Finals, just like Kobe.
Okay.
I'm asking.
Kobe's 5-2. You think he's better than LeBron?
No. I'm not saying Steph is better than LeBron.
Just saying.
Don't get me wrong.
I'm just saying.
I'm
all right?
answering what the people are asking. All right? I'm asking you what the people are asking.
No. To answer your question, no. No.
Mailbag. When all is said and done, which pick do you think produces the most for the team next season, Jeff?
Sorry, what was the question?
When all is said and done next season, who do you think produces the most of all the rookies?
I would say Jahmyr Gibbs because of what he's a dual threat, what he could do in the passing game, what he could do in the running game. I think I would say Jahmyr, although he won't get all the touches in the run game, using him in both phases, I mean, he's going to be productive. So right. I would go Jahmyr.
All right. I'm going to disagree.
Okay.
Sign me up, Jack Campbell. I think 115, 120 tackles.
Ooh.
Probably an interception or two forced fumbles. I expect Jack to have a Defensive Rookie of the Year campaign. I think he's exactly what the Lions needed. You have a ton of concerns with their ability to drop back into coverage. He answers that. He'll be able to step in right away, probably in a 4-2-5 defense here. 4 defensive linemen, 2 linebackers, 5 secondary players. I think Jack Campbell's going to be a menace day one.
Hope so.
All right. Kobe was the best of his era, hands down.
Let's not do this right now.
That's tough. No, it's tough. Because there was Shaq, Duncan, and Kobe.
Yeah.
And then it was young LeBron, but he wasn't winning yet, right? So there was that era of those 3 guys, Shaq, Kobe, and Duncan, and then it was the LeBron era, and now I think we're in the Steph era for the last 7-8 years.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's fair to say, no?
Yeah, no, it's fair, but let's not forget who won all those Finals MVPs early on with Kobe. Love
yeah,
Kobe.
Shaq. That's why I had Shaq.
Yeah, I think people kind of forget about that. So, again, love Kobe.
Again, in context, people also forget Kobe was giving you 31, 7, and 8 in the NBA Finals, but he wasn't the MVP. Again, just like Steph was giving you almost 38 and 10, but he didn't win Finals MVP. Like, you guys want to talk about context? We can do that all day. But anyways, moving on. Let's see what other questions we have today. Does someone make Jeff button his polos all the way up? Yes, I do. It's actually my fetish. So
get out of here. Get out of here.
Which undrafted free agent makes a 53-man roster? Jeff, go for it.
The 2 I would say at least advocate for, Brandon Joseph, one of those guys. I think he should have been drafted. He wasn't. I think he could make the roster, real threat too. And Muhammad Ibrahim. Listen, this is a sneaky guy. I like Muhammad. Went for 1,600 yards last season. I think and you gave him $100,000 guaranteed. You know what that means. He had other offers. So I think Muhammad Ibrahim and Brandon Joseph, those are my 2 favorite UDFAs. So we'll see how they work out.
All right. Nobody ever talks about Steph Curry's choke job in the 2016 finals and Kobe's choke job in the 2004 finals. It wasn't a choke job on Kobe. Oh, come on, Flannel.
If we're being fair.
If going to work Pistons, Shaq and Kobe are coming off a 3-peat onto their 4th consecutive finals. They completely hated each other. They were lackadaisical. The Pistons took advantage of it. They were the better coach team. Let's not just blame it on one player. Malone was shit in that series. Shaq was shit in that series. Like, I don't want to hear it, man.
Even if I'm
all the role players were shit and they got locked up by every Detroit Piston. I don't want to hear it.
I got to be fair here. Even for me defending LeBron, if we're talking about meltdowns,
you want to talk about meltdowns? Let's go to the Dallas Mavericks series.
Yeah, so
where he shit himself.
Everybody's had
Let's talk about him missing the shot and Ray Allen saving his career. How about we talk about him getting 4-1 by Kawhi Leonard?
Hold on. I gave you a little bit of breathing room.
No, we want to talk shit about every superstar. Why don't we talk shit about the one you guys love to praise?
Well, if you're going to bring up Ray Allen hitting the shot, let's bring up who dominated in OT. I mean, LeBron had 17 in the 4th quarter and in overtime.
Yay.
So if we're going to bring up the shot, let's bring up what transpired after the shot.
No, that's fine. Again, that's fine. No problem at all.
All right.
No problem at all. We make excuses. We say Steph didn't do this enough, not enough finals MVPs, MJ this, Kobe that, Shaq this. But with LeBron James, who has lost 6 final series, it's unacceptable to criticize him or any of his stuff because he has 4 finals MVPs and he has all these. Come on, guys. They're all great. And if you want to love somebody more, be my guest. I don't really care. But don't sit there and bring up bullshit and try to discredit. I can't do it. Can't do it. 2014 LeBron and his period cramps. Those were fun. Do the Lions pick up free agents for more roster cuts? We'll see.
Possibly.
I'm not sure what to expect, to be honest, going into this.
Knowing Brad, yes, he's not done. He's not done yet. Mailbag, is this the best offseason in Lions history? I mean, the best offseason in Lions history? I guess I have to wait to see how these draft picks pan out to answer that question.
I love this one. LeBron was in the finals. Flannel, you'll love this. Choking when Jordan couldn't get out of the first round. Yeah. Excuse me. Last I checked, and again, I know all of you LeBron people are going to hate me for this. Okay? Let's look at the Eastern Conference LeBron James played in for over a decade, and let's go look at the Jordan Bulls that had to deal with the bad boy Pistons, that had to deal with the entail, but still had to deal with it, especially when he was young, the Larry Bird Celtics, the super teams that were there. And
let's look at the big bad West he had to face in the finals. You want to bring that up?
Oh, yeah. Let's bring up the unbelievably talented Utah Jazz that he beat twice. Let's bring up
John Stockton,
the MVP Charles Barkley Suns. Let's bring up the Clyde Drexler Portland Trailblazers, which I don't think are
nasty.
Much. But you're going to disregard the 2 wins against Utah? Really? You're really going to discredit those?
Listen,
those aren't good enough for you?
I'm not trying to say
those aren't good enough.
I'm not trying to say they weren't good teams, but
getting past what?
If we're going competition versus competition, we could go there with LeBron and MJ, who they face in the finals.
Oh, what? Him losing to the Spurs twice?
A dynasty. Warriors dynasty. Mavericks is the only one I'll give you because Mavericks, that was an anomaly.
Okay, here, let's do this. Was LeBron the best player on the court in every finals series he played?
Yeah, and he played like that.
Was MJ?
Yeah.
Did LeBron lose?
Oh my God! Here we're
gonna end the show on that.
You're doing that.
We're gonna end the show. We're gonna end the show. I can't do this.
No, but enough basketball. All right, it's the Lions season here.
Well, Chauncey Billups, the greatest point guard that ever played in history. Allen Iverson sucks. All of you go to hell. We're out of here. Thank you so much for the great show. Big D Energy, 11 o'clock.
WoodwardSports.com. Check it out.